We started first.
Cool.
All right. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I bet. But
Answer nothing.
yeah, God knows exactly what you're about to do. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the That's How You Feel podcast. I'm Will. I'm here with my man Brandon and Sarah. First and foremost, we're gonna kick it off like this. Sarah,
What's up?
how are you feeling today?
I got a headache, so not good. And
Like,
that's it. I'm gonna leave it at that.
oh, like something.
It's one of them throbbing ones, like just
Okay.
pounding. But I'm here. We out here.
You gotta drink some tea. You'll be okay.
I know, some chamomile or something. Put me to sleep. What about you?
I'm chilling.
Uh,
You talking to him
Real
or me?
short and sweet. I was talking to both of you. You had like a low-key smirk. I felt like you had something on your chest, Brandon.
Nah, you was talking about your headache, and I was just about to, make some jokes, but
About to violate. I
yeah,
knew
really
it. I
was.
saw it
The
in
whole
his
time,
eyes.
I was like, nah, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Plotting.
Plotting. You know when someone's plotting.
Some point maybe. Some point I might throw him out there.
Hey, bet. What about you, Will? How you feeling?
I'm alright, man. I can't complain.
You got new scenery? You got new setup in the background? That's a new room?
Nah, I'm not in New York.
Oh, I heard you.
I'm international poppy.
You are not supposed to be traveling right now.
Hey, international poppy. Nah,
why don't you tell the world where you at? Maybe we can start off on this Forex crap.
And I'm in a very disclosed location in New Jersey.
Oh, I bet. I thought you was dead international for a second. I was about to be like, where were you at?
International.
I mean, y'all were talking about Forex. Whole different combo. Y'all don't want to get into Forex. I'm learning what it is.
He don't want to get into Forex.
I mean, it deserves its own episode if we get into it.
All right, so if we have time at the end of this,
he's gonna defend his baby because he got money invested in this. Yes, if we have a topic and you talking, if we have a topic and you got money invested, you don't got a choice but to defend it.
Because now you're dumb.
Exactly. That means
you have to defend it.
So
look at his face.
All right.
We'll get off your back. And we'll get on Terry Cruz's back because he's been saying some wild stuff. Right, Well, you can agree with me because we spoke about it before. Yeah. Basically, Brandon doesn't know. Terry Crews has been tweeting all kinds of stuff, and I'm sure he has great intentions. But he's basically been like, let's not make Black Lives Matter. Black lives are better. Let's not act like Black people. Basically, how All Lives Matter argue the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, y'all not the only ones who count or whatever. And he's just doubling down on their statements, talking about Black supremacy. And we got to make sure that the Black race isn't acting like they're better than anyone else. Will is upset. Talk about it, Will. Get it off your chest.
I try not to give this too much. And he said more stuff, too.
He said a lot. I'm just paraphrasing.
This was the tweet that really kicked off everybody paying attention to what he's really saying.
I'm not a human rights activist. What do you say? I'm not a human wrong activist. I'm a human rights activist.
Anyway.
So I'm looking because I have no idea what was being said. I know there's a tweet here that says, here's one of them. He says, if you're a child of God, you are my brother and sister. I have family of every race, creed, and ideology. We must ensure Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better. That's a tweet that I just
okay.
Yeah, that's one of them. But basically,
so
he's had a lot of tweets leading up to that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the tweet just to base my initial thoughts over, and it's really two major thoughts. So I'm not gonna be long-winded. One. Essentially, he's right. Technically, he's right. But I don't mean like his tweet is right. What I'm taking out of the tweet is that the Black supremacy part, because that's where I'm pretty sure that's where it ticked a lot of people off. If we were a more organized, unified people, there would be a such thing as Black supremacy. but it probably wouldn't be in the same form as there is white supremacy. I'm not saying that for 100% fact, but I'm saying that it would probably be viewed different. It would probably play out in the world differently. Um, that's just me thinking technically. Personally, on like a personal like level, like he sounds stupid. He sounds so Kanye right now. And the reason why I say Kanye is because Kanye had an outburst of tweets where if you pick
He had
out
an
certain
interview
things,
apparently.
hey, if you pick out certain things, right? Let's just say if you pick out certain things from Kanye's tweets, like yeah, they make sense, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of deciphering and a lot of breaking down for you to understand what Kanye's a Kanye point, right? A Kanye like what he's really trying to say, even though it's a whole lot of bullshit that's being said in between.
Do you
Like
agree, Brandon?
With what?
What he said about Kanye's tweets? Because I tend to disagree with everything he says.
Everything he says?
Well,
I'll
a
dig.
lot of the
I,
things he says.
I'll dig up some stuff that he says. He's a loose cannon, but he be spitting facts sometimes. So
But like, give
sometimes.
me an example of a recent fact that he
All right,
spoke that
so
was in the midst of foolishness.
yeah,
I don't want I don't want to be that guy.
I'm gonna pull up one for you in the future. I'm gonna give you a quote. He said that nobody reacted to. That was one of the realest things he ever said. So real.
Like recently, though.
It was
Pretty
recent as
recently,
far as
fairly recently.
in the last few years after people already said that he was too far gone.
Okay,
So
okay, cool.
Yeah. So hold on. So like, because I don't want to get off attention on Kanye because Kanye is not the focus. But Cruz, Mr. Terry Cruz, that's one aspect of it. Two, I feel like Terry Crews is in a position where he's been uh, placed in certain groups of people, and he chose like either the bag or securing the bag for his family or whatever the case may be over how essentially how you portray yourself as a black man in this world and your viewpoints being very skewed or let's just say not the majority consensus when it comes to the statements that you make. Like, and I'm gonna say I'm using that generally because he made a lot of tweets. He like posted a lot of tweets. So and a lot of them, like if you want to sit down and have a
can we can
like an
we
intellectual conversation.
I only found, and I'm not saying you guys aren't, obviously there are more tweets. I only saw that one on that website I pulled up. Do y'all know of any specific tweets, or is this just stuff that we're hearing about that we don't actually know what was said? Because if you can pinpoint and maybe elaborate so that I can understand where you're about to go with your point and not just base it off of what I know of Terry Crews and his story, because then I'll just
Right.
disagree with you off rip because I don't agree. But if you can pinpoint some tweets that maybe help out your argument and maybe make me say, okay, I can see where you're coming from, because right now I'm a little confused.
Well, I'll paraphrase the tweets, but he said something like, "We got to make sure, again, with the same undertones as the tweet you read, we got to make sure that we're not fighting for Black supremacy because basically all lives matter is what he's arguing, which is redundant to say all lives matter in general. I hate that phrase because it's just defensive to Black Lives Matter. It's literally just made because you just wanted an answer to give somebody. But he's on that type of time, the all lives matter wave, basically. He had a string of tweets that led up to that. And
Well,
like what Will was saying, it just seems like he is more concerned with other people's approval, people that are hiring him, as opposed to the community that he says he's fighting for.
So
That makes sense. Will politely called him a coon. Basically,
no. But all right, so the story of Terry Crews is very like there's more
the
timeline
story
to
of
it,
Terry
right?
Crews.
I'm dead serious. There's more timeline to it because if you think about it, let's say it can start from when he was you know attaching himself to the Me Too movement about how he got sexually assaulted.
Yep,
And I'm not
I
downplaying
remember
that.
that.
I'm not downplaying that. I'm not. A lot of people had a lot to say about that, but I would never downplay
And definitely a
his
lot of black
experience.
people.
Definitely a lot of
Definitely a
black
lot of
people.
black men.
And
But
yeah, so exactly black men, but
for,
don't black women are like some of the
oh
most
yeah, they was going
unapologetic
ham.
when it came to that and other situations when it comes it's it
When it came to what?
when,
They were
They
defending
was
him.
going
I'm
crazy.
bringing it up only because the argument of today is black men don't protect black men don't protect black women, but there are so many cases we could find where black women ain't protecting black men either, so that's one of them. But
They took his
Nah,
neck and was
not
like,
Terry Cruz's.
yes,
"Yo, no, yes, Terry
yes.
Crews." Especially when
Well, I'm a
after that.
specifically. What I mean specifically was Gabrielle Union when I say black
Yeah,
women.
so after that moment, like it kind of his appearance and like him in a social light died down a little bit after that, but then it sparked right back up with this Gabrielle Union joint when he said when he made a comment on her getting fired, and the comment was not in her defense, but it was kind of an additional criticism to something that the network already said about Gabrielle Union and her being fired from.
What did he say?
He basically
He
said
just
something
belittled.
about her hair, right? Like something about her
Yeah, he
hair.
just belittled her racist experiences and was like, "Well,
Yeah,
I don't know what she's talking about because it never happened to me, and we work for the
word,
same people,
word.
basically."
And he was like, something like, yo, if a network is asking you to fix your hair, like I'm paraphrasing, but like
He
it
said, "Fix
would
it."
behoove you to like kind of like make yourself more like accepted, so like accepted in these areas and these types of situations, something like that, something along those lines. And
I don't
then
even
people
remember that.
really, nah, like that was I think if it wasn't a tweet, it was like a video, like an
An
interview type
interview.
situation. Yeah. And so after that, people really went ham on him, and they started calling him all types of coons and like, "Well, Gabrielle defended you during your Me Too movement type of thing that you was going through. She was behind you and she supported you, and now you did that. And now after that incident, you have these string of tweets, and the two that I see that caught the most,
He.
attention, heat, thank you, was the Black Lives Matter morphing into Black Lives Better, and then I'm the child of God and I have family and friends of all different races, creeds, colors. Now, this leads me to my second point. The thing about Terry Crews is that in a perfect world, in an ideal world, he is not wrong, right? He's not. But in a reality, in our reality, in this country, in this world, what he's saying is masking the issues that we face. It's just like, oh, I don't see color. Like he could have damn near just said, I don't see color and kept it pushing and masked our issues. And because he's such a notable figure in the mainstream world, and he's a black man on top of that, him making these comments very detrimental, very irresponsible because
It's not detrimental.
yes, it is because it's all about perception. It's all about how at the end of the day how you are perceived. If white people see his tweet, and like they're fans of Terry Crews and they'll and he's catering to a certain audience with what he says, the wording that he uses, um, it can in the minds of white people it can distort the perception on what the reality of a black man really goes through in this country, especially when we're fighting for Black Lives Matter and we're trying to make them see that Black Lives Matter and not all but most or some are creating all these defenses to saying like, oh nah, like
So
it's not that
is
serious, it's for
detrimental because he's a celebrity? Because
no
white people, they don't.
it's detrimental because his influence and
So
what
because it's a celebrity.
nah but yes, his celebrity,
His platform.
his platform, and what he says can be used as ammunition to combat a very real situation, a
No,
very real reality in this country.
let me ask you a question because last time I checked, when white people go and use a black man's, um, I guess statements or actions to, I guess further their cause or their beliefs, it didn't matter your status or your celebrity. if they saw any black person that agreed with them, see, he agrees. See, it's not
Yeah.
detrimental to me. It's not like, once again, it's only detrimental if you view celebrities as like these godly people. Like, oh,
Yeah, you
like,
can't expect too much out
I
of
mean,
strangers.
but yo, like you're right, like you're 100% right, and like for people like us, we know we don't put 100% of our faith and trust or anything, merit, credit into celebrity because they're celebrity, and I'm assuming that we all have an idea of what celebrity is. It's essentially. So I'm not saying that we would do that, but I'm thinking of it like how it's projected to his fans, people who may not like rock with him and what he
got
does, but because of the tweet, because of what he said, now they like on his side, like on his became a supporter because of that. Like I get what you're saying. What you're saying is very accurate. Like it doesn't affect me personally. It wouldn't affect me personally. It wouldn't affect me personally. But on a bigger stage, in a bigger arena, it influences one. It could influence one group of people to think that or assume that everybody or black people see like this black person said this, so this is not as big as you guys make it. This is not as a big deal as you think it is, and that's obviously not the case. And what he's saying, I don't know. There's no background of why he put these tweets out. I don't know if he explained himself, but and him trying to be some type of superior wokeness, like it backfired. It's almost like to our previous episode. It's almost like a white intellect thing,
so
like where you say something, but it's like,
I'm gonna reread this, and you tell me the message. I'm gonna reread it, and you tell me
please.
what this message could give off, right? So, because I need to understand what you're saying. So, if you're a child of God, you are my brother and sister. I have family of every race, creed, and ideology. We must ensure Black Lives Matter does not morph into Black Lives Better. So you hear that, and it gives off what message?
So you want me to break it down? Break it
I
down.
want you to break it down in a way where it doesn't take up a half an hour.
All right, I'm gonna try my best.
Copy.
So basically, being a child of God, like it's synonymous with being a churchgoer, being a Christian, and especially in this country because Christianity is like the number one faith in this country, right? So when you're looking at the historical context of I'm a child of God and dot 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 dot, um, that's two different realities for black and white people.
Yes.
That it, being a child of God for a black person and white person is two different realities throughout history, especially the history of this country. I'm gonna tell you why. Because in the past, and especially under in the name of God, white people have justified slavery. White people have justified brutalizing black and brown bodies. They have they have been able to take scripture, and then super transpose it into creating laws, and creating spewing ideologies, aka the KKK. So, and mind you, this is probably not something that's on the forefront of everybody's mind, but it's definitely in the subconscious. And if not in the subconscious, it's something that's ingrained in you because it's ingrained in this country. And when a when a black person passively says, "Oh, I'm a child of God, so everybody is my brother and my sister," realistically in history and realistically right now, that's not even the case because you have black people being slain by white people. And yes, you can make it a race thing, you can make it a color thing. Right now, you have people being slain by one group of people, or people being discredited or not be seen as equal. You don't even have to make it a black and white thing. There's been children that have been taken by their families at the borders, and from people that are probably God fearing, God worshiping people, Christians. Like there are atrocities that are done in the name of God that have played out all throughout history. And when you're making a statement as ambiguous as he did, that is detrimental because in your eyes, and no, in the receiver's eyes, you're a black man saying that I'm a Christian, I'm a God fearing man, or I'm a child of God, I'm a Christian, whatever the case may be, and I feel like everybody is my family. So I don't know what y'all. So this is paraphrasing. This is probably concluding, but I don't know what y'all tripping about. Black lives. It shouldn't be Black Lives Matter because it can potentially turn into Black Lives Better.
Mm.
And We have never I don't know any instances where black people have been trying to say, "Oh, I'm better than white people."
Who said that?
We've been
That's
trying
the
to get
What are
thing.
equal.
y'all reading
Like for
that you hear he's trying to say that?
Literally the
We
no,
line
must
that
because
said,
yo,
we
bro.
must ensure Black
Mhm,
Lives Matter doesn't
mhm.
morph into Black Lives Better.
well, who
But
said
we,
Black lives
but
are better?
One, let's not we don't need to let them into the homes of black people, but let's not act ignorant on that one.
no,
Um,
yeah, because I was about to speak to that. Yeah.
yeah. I
Nah, I
just
don't agree with that at all, bro.
black
All right.
for black you've never heard no black people talk about how they think
I'm talking
throughout
about in terms
history.
of this
there
movement.
are there are, there
No
are
one is saying
extremists.
Black lives are better.
But
Listen. I'm
this
gonna
is
be
not him.
real.
It's really how you interpret it. Honestly,
Of
it's
course.
more so interpreting it how you want to hear it. That's really what
Oh,
this is.
all right.
Because
You're absolutely right. But
yes,
I'm gonna let
I
you know
want to
for a
hear
fact.
Brandon's side of this.
no, he
Okay.
can finish his point because I know I'm gonna give him that time and then I'll just answer and tell him why I feel like he's wrong.
All right. So Sarah, to the point that Brandon was pointing out about like the Black Lives Matter not turning into Black Lives Better.
Hmm.
I will say, but this is for all groups of people, mind you, not just black people. There are
Yes.
extremists in every sub population, culture, ethnicity, whatever the case you want to call it. There's extremists on both sides, the right and the left. So, do I think that there are people within the Black Lives Matter movement or in the fight for you know our equal rights that do it in a very extreme way and it can be very detrimental? Yes, I do. But that number is few and far in between of the number that of people who are really actually trying to do it the right way, the legal way, stuff like that. And also, Brandon, like the whole thing that you said about, oh, I don't see how you guys are interpreting it that way. Essentially, you have to interpret it that way because there's so much yeah, there's so much sub communication. There's so many things that are not said but are implied when when we I guess try to break down statements like this. Like essentially, it is perpetuating a narrative that black not black lives or yeah because she said black lives matter, black lives better, black lives are not as um the fight is not as big or as a big of a deal that we make it. Like that's the sentiment that is placed behind it, and that's the sentiment that will be placed behind it if a white person comes along with an agenda or that is not that don't understand the plight of black people, and then they try to push this narrative and this agenda, and they use Terry Cruz's words and scapegoat him into making people believe, like generally like on a bigger scale, making people believe that this issue is not a real issue or it's not a very substantial issue or or it won't make like big impactful change for the lives of black and brown people in this
So
country.
then do the people who were protesting and the ones that were shot and killed where they're in their statements they're saying that they love the cops and then they love all people. The people that got arrested while saying this still, and then Elijah McClain, and his final words, and him telling police officers and white people and all those people alike that he still loves them and all that. That must be detrimental too.
No, those are two different. Those are in the two different contexts in my eyes.
Well,
Um,
I'm saying
because
this
here's the
this is
thing.
their interpretation.
Right.
So you get that. Go ahead, finish because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to talk. But go ahead, finish.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Interpretation.
I can hold what I can
I
hold what I
got
gotta
you.
say.
I hear everything you're saying, and I'm not saying that you're 100% wrong. I don't know what I've asked, and I don't think you guys can pull them up if they're still up or not. I need specific tweets so I can kind of analyze them all. From this, so now we're breaking down this quote, and you told me everything you just told me out your mouth just based off this
Mm-hmm.
quote, and that's one interpretation. I gotta
Right.
say, when I read the quote, Terry Crews in my mind doesn't come up as an activist or someone that I look for to speak for me. So when I hear it, I don't necessarily care. I to have that type of reaction. I see it and it's like, okay, Terry Crews said this, and then I kind of
Mm-hmm.
move on with my day. So when I read all the quotes and comments that people are and then I hear you guys, it's like, okay, so you choose what you want. If you are a child of God, you are my brother and sister, and you told me what you said about the religion and how it's two different realities, which you are correct. And in history, white people looked at religion a lot differently than black people looked at religion, and Christianity was forced upon most of those who came here. However, if you decided to keep that religion and you believed in it, does that mean that you can't now go ahead and live your life as a Christian based on how you see it was supposed to be represented? So now he said, so if he goes and has that viewpoint, that makes him wrong because of history, or does it make him wanting to better, like himself for thinking that way? Like just because white people did what they did, does that mean that all black people who believe in Christianity should be condemned?
That okay. So can I use the Elijah McClain situation?
You can, and then after this, I'll get back to finishing my point. But yes, you can.
So one, I would say when it comes to black people believing in the faith and like seeing the good in it past the slavery part where we were slaves and it was forced upon us, um, that goes without saying, and I don't think that is discredited in this discussion. But you gotta understand this, and I'm gonna use the Elijah McClain thing. When Elijah McClain was saying it, he wasn't saying it from the comfort of his home, or he wasn't saying it from a viewpoint where it's like, oh, I'm just free thinking right now, and I'm gonna say what I want and post it on Twitter. Mm-hmm. He was saying it to appease to people who are brutalizing him in a moment. So I'm sorry, wrong word. He was saying it to display humanity, display his humanity,
okay,
to people who were brutalizing him in a moment, in a situation,
exactly.
In a moment.
And
Terry Crews, that's true. That's true. It probably is. It probably was his viewpoint, but Terry Crews probably had time to sit down and think about this before he tweeted it, or he just free thought it and tweeted it and sent it out.
Or maybe he's a grown ass black man who's been through his own experiences in life, who has come to this idea at this point in life that this is how he feels.
But there are also factors that come into play because Terry Crews is a celebrity, because he's a blockbuster actor, because
you only care because
he's made millions of dollars. I mean, I don't care. I care only because of the perception, his influence, and the perception of what his words.
It's how you perceive it.
Consequences of his. Of course, it's how I perceive it. But you can't. I would hope that you don't think that his words just fall on deaf ears, and that his words won't make an impact. Won't have any.
You know what gives his words meaning? You give anyone's words meaning. Anyone can say anything. You talking to somebody on the street right now, they hit you with some coon shit. What you gonna do?
I'm gonna address it. I'm gonna be like, yo,
are you?
I hear what you're saying.
And then when it becomes counterproductive because you don't know this man, what do you do?
Walk away.
No. Walk
away.
I feel you, but I can conduct myself in a manner and be like, yo, bro, I see what you're saying, but I don't disagree. And here's why I feel like if you go around the wrong people saying this might have a different effect.
Okay, but and then
if so I can't get through that way, then I'm out.
Okay, exactly. How my next question is going to be: how long do you try to talk to someone who has their own beliefs and then clearly not getting your point? You're going to walk away, and guess what you're going to do after you walk away? You're not going to think about that situation for the rest of the day. If you do, at least tomorrow, that's going to be off your mind. But Terry Crews says this, and we give him all this attention and all because he's a celebrity. But we know if we saw someone on our own personal lives that did this, unless they were real close to us, we're not really giving it a second thought after we walk away from this, right? You might be upset about it on the moment, but you don't really care. That person has no voice, so they get to go and spew on their shit to the people they speak to, or the small 300 social media fan base, and it gets lost in the internet that same day or the next day. It doesn't matter what he said. It only matters how you perceive it. Like you said, you're giving me every perception that you give me. I can give you one just based off this one tweet that says like you said, it's not wrong. And maybe he did have good intentions, but once again, if you're not coming from a certain place, then people don't want to hear it. I get how it can sound like you're saying. When he says we must ensure Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better, I get how that can sound
What
a
does
certain
that
way.
mean to you?
To
Because
me,
I'm
it
not coming
to
where you.
me,
I don't get where you coming from with
I'm
it.
not I'm not I'm not ignorant to how many, like I said to you before, a lot of people within every single movement will hide behind that movement when it's convenient for them. They fit the mold. It obviously relates to them. Someone who is gay, obviously the gay movement,
LGBTQ.
LGBTQ plus, they obviously fit that mold. If you're a woman and you feel like, you know, you want to be a feminist, that relates to you. But not all feminists should necessarily be at the forefront of that group, because you might not agree with what they're saying. So what I'm saying is there's people within the Black Lives Matter movement, or people that cling to it, claim it, that don't necessarily care either way, right? That don't really care, that feel the way they feel, that have just a strong hatred towards white people or anybody, you know, that they ain't rocking with them. Anything you say, like, you know how you tell somebody constructive criticism and they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to hear it. They oh, no, 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 like you ain't like my shit, you would hate them. You trying to help them out. You ain't saying nothing wrong. You're trying to help them out. If you're not rocking with them, they don't want to hear it. This is not just within the Black Lives Matter. This is just a human defect that we have. Like we need to be praised. Some people can take it and they get better, but a lot of people can't take that. This is the same thing. You see somebody that's speaking their mind, right? And you perceive it. You cannot get any one perception based off. He didn't blatantly say anything, right? He didn't blatantly say Black Lives.
No,
I
he
don't believe in Black Lives
implied.
Matter. He implied based off your perception.
Wait, time out
all,
real
all, I,
quick.
all I all I hear from it is that, and you know for a fact there are some people within our movement that
Hmm.
have a very strong and aggressive, almost condescending sometimes, and it comes from emotion. It comes from a place of of
Hurt.
pain, of
Yeah.
hurt, and y'all love to say this quote: hurt people." And what he could be trying to imply is that while we are fighting for what we're fighting for, we can't lose track of what we want. It cannot be, if we had power, what would we do? Like, would we want to treat them the way that we've been asking to be treated, or would we go ahead and, if the power was flipped, treat them the same way they've been treating us for the last 400 years? And people like him, like this, are, people like a quote like this can make you think, if you thought that way, like, let's not lose sight. Like, let's not be that person. Let's make sure that, we're fighting for what we fight for. Black Lives Matter. We want to be understood, but let's not. There are so many posts I see that are hateful posts, that are posts just being posted out of hate, and that's it. And if you're doing that, um, your head's in the wrong place, right? Pain, and I don't condemn anybody. I don't think anybody is wrong for how they feel and how they deal with pain or hurt. But let's not act like everybody is righteous about what they're trying to do. Some people are very emotional. Some people don't care at all, but only cling to it when it affects them in that moment, right? And then there are other people that you know I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It can be perceived in so many ways, and we don't know who he's talking to, right? He's clearly not talking to everyone. He can't be, right?
So what I interpreted from that was also based on a previous tweet of his. I tried looking it up for you, Brandon, because I know you like the exact quotes,
I
but I
need
couldn't find it. I
it.
couldn't find it, but I was dead trying to look it up while you were talking before. He said something about like black supremacy, and that's not what we're looking for, or whatever. Which one, like, I don't know what black supremacy is. Two, how are we supposed to achieve it? Because it's pretty impossible, it seems like. And three, what I got from like, let's make sure that this Black Lives Matter is not Black Lives Better. So I thought immediately of the movement and the people who started that movement, those initial organizers. Their intent was never to make it Black Lives Better. Their intent was, hey, stop killing us. Thanks, guys. And he is just, to me, emphasizing the narrative that Black lives are better is the same argument that all lives are better, which I disagree with. And I feel like him being a part of this community should know that's not what this specific movement is asking for. Yes, there are radicals who want that.
You
Yes,
know,
people talk differently
mhm.
in the comfort of their homes. I'm sure there are like abolitionists who are like, nah, fuck that, it's our turn now or whatever. Like, obviously there are those people, but I was specifically thinking of that movement, and those organizers have never even implied that they wanted it to be a Black Lives Are Better narrative.
Can I ask you a question? Who,
Sure, Brandon, you can always ask me a question.
who you think run the Black Lives Matter movement?
Um,
I just
to
want to
be honest,
ask.
I don't know their names.
You don't know their names, but who do you think, if you had to guess the color of their skin,
Black people?
you
Oh,
think
wait, we talked about this
you think black
before.
people run it?
Well,
It's been
according to you guys, I forgot we talked about this,
I'll
that
tell you.
it's a bigger thing than Black people. If you want to elaborate again on it.
Well,
so
is it one? I'll tell you right now. If you believe, if anyone believes that the Black Lives Matter movement is at the head of this, at the top, at the very top, is black people, you're sadly mistaken. So once again, I ask you, when you say things like, these comments like Terry Crews is so detrimental, like, is it really? We're giving our money, we'll donate to the Black Lives Matter movement and not know where the money's going, just that it says Black Lives Matter. We get
It's a
mad that they
gamble.
you get mad that they paint the street. Oh, they put Black Lives Matter on it. Well, Black Lives Matter is you still don't know where the money is going, right?
Black
So
Lives Matter is not paying for those street
no,
murals.
pavement, like being paved, painted onto the streets.
Yeah,
Like
but those are from like city funding and
I
stuff like
I
that.
know. I'm saying we
Oh, okay.
complain about it, like, cause it's like it's visually. Like I always say, like we complain about the things that they show you and they tell you about. Like obviously we don't want streets being painted Black Lives Matter. But once
Hmm.
again, it's almost like the head of the NAACP. She was a white woman. Nobody really cared until it became a big thing and
No
everyone
one
cared.
knew.
Exactly. Good. So meaning nobody cared. Um,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not about to fact check someone if they're Black, if they say they're Black.
I'm just saying that. How would you feel like if you knew that white people were running Black Lives Matter? If you knew that, like for sure, like
not
you saw
surprised.
them, you wouldn't be surprised. But then, how would you feel about this whole Black Lives Matter movement then?
I mean, mm, so much I'm gonna say. Uh, I'm gonna answer your question. So I feel like regardless of a movement or not, the sentiment of Black Lives Matter is more credible to me than the movement. If you're trying to break down and find something within the movement that doesn't uh, have it support Black people through and through from the top to the bottom, right? I feel like the sentiment and the words themselves, Black Lives Matter, is more of a has more of a lasting effect, and there's just that the visual of those words um, are important because I really don't understand how people um, have so much evidence of of a very cyclical, repetitive thing being that are happening to a group of people specifically, and then they have all of these um, tangents of how it's not that or it can't be that when the evidence and the examples and the track record and the history is right there. It's for you. It's right there for you, and you can see that the influence, not the influence, the result behind it all is the fact that there's a problem with white officers or officers in general killing black people specifically
You,
killing black people when they can diffuse a situation, when
yes,
they can simply arrest a person. You know what I mean? Like so to answer your question, yo, the black me personally, I feel that the words Black Lives Matter, the sentiment behind those words are what's most important and that we need to uphold, that we need to continue to remember because it can get lost. The sentiment can get lost in you know throughout the whole movement, throughout the whole process.
does every person, do you, if they went ahead and counted, or they every black person that committed a crime, if they found out that they've been chanting Black Lives Matter or whatever, like would you be comfortable with them using those people, um, or the people that act like derelicts, right? Would you be comfortable with them using those people as like a way of saying Like Black Lives, this is how Black Lives Matter people act.
Wait,
No.
So
rephrase that for
so
me.
let's say me and you are chanting Black Lives Matter,
Right.
right? And I'm I'm acting a fool. Like I'm just doing because not based on my skin, but just because I'm a fucking knucklehead. I'm acting a fool. I'm screaming Black Lives Matter. I get myself into trouble, and now I'm dealing with the cops in a situation where I'm clearly wrong, and I'm making a scene, right? Because it happens, and I'm only using the situation because it's extreme. Because I brought up the cops in the situation. It could be any situation where somebody's doing something wrong, and then pull the Black Lives Matter black card to get them. Oh, you only fucking with me because I'm black. Like no, you clearly you're in the wrong, right? But that's what'll happen a lot of times. Do you believe that that's the case? That there are people like that in
Oh,
our
of
group?
course.
Okay,
And
so if
that's a victim mentality. Very, very much
yes,
so.
so if they were to use those people as like, okay, these are the people that's within, because they do it all the time. I'm just
Mhm.
asking you how you feel about them putting those people in the news or whatever the case may be. So yes, I'm not saying that. Um, I'm not saying Terry Crews what he said is 100% correct,
Right.
but for us to get mad at him when we understand that it may not be as extreme as what the media says, but we do have more than what we like to acknowledge in our movement or in our community that act a certain way or victimize themselves and then pull that card.
But
And we also have people whose views are mis are clouded in a way where it could be similar to the we talked about if you agree with being gay or not, right? Or you might not necessarily agree, but do you hate them, right? So
nah,
that's how I see a lot of it.
mm,
It's the difference between being that extreme. Like you might not agree with Terry Crews
right.
because but he's also not coming from a place where it feels like he's not it's defense. It's like you said, it's passive, and
It's
it's
very
not
passive.
but it's passive, but it's also a reason why it comes across that way. It's not passive in a way where it's like he's passively aggressively attacking the white community. It wasn't an attack. It was more of a defense for the black community. Like and it came, you know what I'm saying? It was more of a defensive passive to try to I'm
No,
not sure I'm
I
being
mean, no, I feel
but
like you nailed it home in your explanation. Um, more more importantly, especially with the Terry Crews thing, like you said, like they will they will put the people that are not that we know for a fact that are not suitable in the front in the head of the movement or in the head of the crowd or the head of the pack, right? The same thing can be applied over to this Terry Crews quote. Because even you said it, you said, well, the quote, if I'm reading it, it sounds ambiguous. It sounds like you can interpret it any
because you
way,
can.
and that's and there lies the problem in these days and times when anything could become weaponized. A tweet, a quote, a saying can become weaponized against a group of people. It can be very detrimental to put out statements like these, regardless if you're a celebrity or not, because regular people get their shit tore up on social media too. They say some dumb shit, but
Not
even
really.
in that,
Not to that degree.
not to this extent, of course, because they're a regular person, but people will come at them and or check them. There's not people not going to be like, oh, this is a regular person, it's not a celebrity, so I'm not going to say nothing. No, people will say something.
Yeah, but
And
like I said, it's not the same.
but to your point, um, because you can interpret it any way, it leaves too much room for the wrong people to come in and twist and misconstrue these words. And you know this because it's been done all throughout history in every aspect of life, health, at the educational system, the prison industrial complex, the entertainment industry, the fashion industry. It doesn't matter where you go. The fact that he made this statement, and I don't know his knowledge on the history of this country. I hope he has a little bit of knowledge in his arsenal. But those words are very detrimental because they are left open ended, because it's like, oh well, I'm not speaking to a specific group, and he did that intentionally with the, oh, I'm a child of God. Like, he started off like, look, basically saying I love everybody. So
I
what I'm about to say is not to attack or offend or anything, or not to make somebody look at me or hate me because of what I'm about to say. And then he went on to, then he proceeded on to say, we should be careful because it could turn from Black Lives Matter to Black Lives Better.
So I'm gonna bring up a couple of celebrities, and you tell me how you feel about them.
Hold on, time.
No,
Before
no,
we
I'm
even
I'm
get
gonna
there,
bring up a couple celebrities.
I hope, but hold on, because it's very important because you
It's
even
it,
said it yourself. But
it
hold
I
on.
said what myself?
You said it yourself. They will they will put the wrong people at the head of the crowd.
Okay,
And Terry Crews
that's not what I
in
meant.
his
But go ahead.
hold on. But I'm relating it. I'm relating it. Terry Crews in on his platform with his celebrity can be put at the head because of this tweet, because of the attention that it's getting, and it can cause more harm than good. Even if his intentions are good, you have to be more concise, precise, especially as a celebrity when you know you have eyes watching you and you know you get the attention, you know you get the retweets. You have to be more concise, or you have to be more diligent about how you word things, how you say things, because it can be to your detriment, even if you have good
To
intentions.
your detriment, but not to the detriment of the community. So I'm gonna ask you a question. Um, I'm gonna bring up celebrities. You tell me how you feel about them. How you feel about Lil Wayne? You like him?
uh, yeah,
Okay. How you feel about Morgan Freeman? You like him?
good actor.
Okay. How you feel about Denzel Washington? You like him?
He's the GOAT, man. The
Okay.
GOAT as
Well,
far as actors.
and there's a whole list of them. These are all black men, black celebrities that have went on this onto camera, onto news or broadcast, and said that, or Lil Wayne he blatantly said that racism didn't exist. That
To him,
that he never, so he never had to deal with it. So to him, he didn't think it existed, right?
okay, that's a
Um.
very individual
A
thing.
white cop saved his
o-
life. That's what he
Okay.
said.
Okay. It
Uh
is.
huh.
Thank you, Will. It is an individual thing. So once again, Morgan Freeman also pushes a narrative that racism isn't as bad as we make it out to be, because look at him and look at somebody else, they're on TV. So clearly we've advanced, and clearly, it's all about how much work you put in, right? We just
Right.
blaming it on our skin color, right?
Right.
Okay, so that could be detrimental. Well, let's talk about Denzel Washington, who kind of says more or less the same, right? These are
Mm-hmm.
all iconic black men that we look up to. But because Terry Crews has um, a history of taking certain roles and being a certain voice, we attack him. We pretend like we didn't hear Morgan Freeman say these things because he's such an icon, and you don't want to let go of that.
Right.
We
All right.
pretend like we didn't hear Denzel Washington and Lil Wayne, and the list goes on. It's
Mhm.
not just them. There's so many celebrities that are where they are at, and don't believe that racism is nearly as bad as a lot of us in our community feel like. And no one, I don't hear nobody talking about that. Yeah, it was years old. It was years old. This is like
Right.
this. You could find these probably clips. These clips probably before 2010. Some of them, but it don't matter. It was said,
Mm.
and these are the people we still look up to. So answer me that before you go on and continue on Terry Crews and how his comments are such a detriment. When we have comments that are way worse than whatever you just heard that from that tweet.
Like, I can do that.
Can you?
So when it comes, so when it
Can you?
comes to Terry Crews, me personally, I'm a big fan of Terry Crews. Um, Especially in like with the roles that he's taken in TV and film, like it is work. It's work. It's in the same across the board for Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, and Lil Wayne as an artist. Um, when because I've heard more so Lil Wayne and Morgan Freeman's views and takes on race more than Denzel, but in those instances, I was even though I can support them as a fan of their art and what they do and their work, I can also see how what they can say off camera in a very candid one-on-one conversation. I can see how I can agree and disagree with certain things that they might say. Just like with
I'm
Terry
gonna ask
Crews,
you
I
what they
can
might
agree.
say. I'm gonna ask you, but
No, what
based
they
off
said.
the
I'm sorry. What they said. Sorry,
on camera
on camera,
that you can
and
listen to
because
right now.
and I could listen to right now, and I can take things from it and I'll be like, all right, I see what you're saying. I don't agree. I do the same. I could do the same thing with
And
Terry
you can't
Crews,
do that for Terry Crews.
I could do the same thing for Terry Crews. And there's no malice in my heart. Don't get me wrong. I have no hate, I don't hate him. I don't bash him. I don't cancel him. I don't do none of that. But I'm just addressing the tweet, the words that were said, and I can do it for Lil Wayne. I could do it for Denzel. I could do it for Morgan Freeman. I have no problem doing that. But my whole thing is right now, because we're talking about Terry Crews, and because Terry Crews has created a firestorm behind what he said. Okay, then now let's talk about it. Just like if I was, if it was me at those points in time with Morgan Freeman, Denzel, Lil Wayne, and especially Lil Wayne one, because okay, he feels like that racism doesn't exist because the white officer saved his life. Cool,
That's not
but
why. That's a part of it.
well, because of the situation that happened when he was a young
That just
kid
plays
in that
that plays a
situation,
factor into why.
and that he does it, and it's not in his realm of reality. Okay, Lil Wayne, I will respect that for how you said it, but the reality of the many is not the same as your reality, and your reality can become altered very quickly if a cop just wants to do it. That's what it all boils down to. It could be Morgan Freeman, it could be Denzel, it could be Lil Wayne, it could be Terry Crews. These black men, if it's the wrong cop on the wrong day, oh well, I don't care if you're Denzel, I don't care if you're Morgan Freeman, I don't care if you're Lil Wayne. I Matter of fact, I do care because now I'm gonna make an example out of you for everybody else to see. May not happen, but it's a possibility.
Did it with
And
Tupac.
they did
They
it with
made an
Tupac.
example
It
out of
did.
him all the time.
They did. And my whole thing with your statement, the question that you posed, like this is not when I talk about it, this is not me attacking the celebrity because of their celebrity, because of who they are. I'm addressing what they said and what Terry Crews said, regardless of however you want to interpret it. When it comes to how I interpret it and how I know it can affect me long term, I must speak on it.
Detrimental is a pretty big word, right?
But it could
So
be
so
because it's not a
it could be, but once again, I brought up all those names. I didn't hear you using that once. And to me,
what their names.
no,
Detrimental.
detrimental.
Yo,
Um,
what Little Wayne said can
I
be
don't need you to say
detrimental
it
to,
now, but
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 it's not like I
I
can't say
wanted
it. It's
you
not
to
like
say
I
it on your own, just to see if were you. I needed to hear it only because, like, once again,
okay.
this is no. You don't have to go back. I don't want
No,
to.
no,
I don't
no.
want you
I'm
to
not
read.
going back because I'm
But
gonna hold it. Go ahead.
Terry Crews, what Terry Crews said is not detrimental, right?
It is.
It's not. It wasn't detrimental. That tweet right there was not detrimental. It's only detrimental if you. What? Will? Damn. Go ahead. Speak, bro. Go ahead. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, bro.
All right. Because
It's
I
alright.
I know where you're gonna take it, and
All
I
right.
really want to state it. It's detrimental right now for right now in this moment in this country on the Twitter feeds on everything. The attention is on Black Lives Matter. So right now, him saying it right now in this moment is detrimental. Just
Damn,
like
Terry Crews must be way bigger than I thought he was.
it's a detrimental. It can be a detrimental statement to make, bro. Because if the attention, if you can hashtag Black Lives Matter and that hashtag is 49 million posts right now, that means that is a hot topic. That means that it will garner attention, no matter if the person is a fan of you or
Why?
not,
Why will it garner attention, Will?
because it is a hot topic. That's why
No.
I just
Why
said
is it
that.
a hot topic? Can I tell you what the
Because
most?
it's
You want to know what the biggest commodity in this country or in the world is?
attention.
Attention, Will. And who gives it attention?
People.
People give
But
it
I think
attention.
like Will has a point. I understand
He
what you're
does
saying,
have a
Brandon.
point, but it's exaggerated Terry Crews is not that type of dude that once again you were just talking a couple podcasts ago about how you don't want certain celebrities speaking for me, and you don't think that celebrities should be speaking for everybody. And now all of a sudden Terry Crews says
But
something, and now you react this way because it can be detrimental. No,
no,
if
no.
you can't have two takes on how you feel
Mm.
about celebrities
I
speaking.
don't. I don't. I feel like when it comes to social injustice issues, I'm not going to look for certain celebrities to speak on social injustice issues, especially if they're not especially if they're not well equipped to answer the question to speak on it. Um, when it comes to the when it comes to the Terry Crews situation, I'm not saying that he's a celebrity that I would look to speak for us entirely, but it is detrimental because it's like if a celebrity doesn't say anything and they say and then they come out and say, yo, I'm not gonna speak on it because I don't have all the facts and knowledge about it. I will respect that more than a person trying to come out and be fake woke and say some
That's
oh
not
some
detrimental.
such and so enlightened like
That's not
something that's so
detrimental to the
enlightened.
community. If a celebrity
But
comes out and says, "I'm not going to speak on it because I don't got the knowledge to speak on it," right? You're going to
yeah,
respect.
it's
That's the
not
Can't,
most
their
honest
area.
thing
It's
you could
not their
that can't be
say.
field.
detrimental because then what?
That's honesty, though. I'd rather you say I don't know about it than
No,
you just give me
because
some
here's like I
BS.
said, everything is up to interpretation, and I want Will's full attention for this one. If
Oh, okay.
if a celebrity comes out and says, if you want a celebrity to speak, and they come out and say, I can't speak on this, I don't have enough, right?
Hmm.
You think that just celebrities don't have a lot of knowledge on this topic, huh?
No,
No.
I'm
I
saying.
don't.
Wait,
I'm
wait.
asking you yes or no. I'm still going. Do you
Do I
think
think
that
that
there
they
are
don't
regular
have
people that don't have knowledge on this topic?
as the
As
celebrity
regular people,
themselves?
do you think regular people, as every regular black person in this world, know
Hmm.
all the history on Black history? They
No,
didn't know all of it. Okay,
no.
so a celebrity comes out and says, I don't want to speak because I don't know enough." Then that gives white people the power to say like, look at them, like he understands his place. He don't know what he's talking about. He's not just gonna go off ranting and rah rah rah, spewing nonsense, right? If celebrities have that stance, right? If you could say a
Right,
celebrity doesn't want to say anything because they
right,
don't know enough, then the one that could possibly take away a voice from the black community, which can be detrimental. It can give white people the power to say, look, see, you have people in your community that understand their place, or they understand that they don't know everything, and they're not just gonna go out spewing shit at the mouth, saying whatever because they're mad and angry, and life is hard, so get over it. That gives them the ammo to say all of that. If someone doesn't say anything at all, that's detrimental as well.
right,
So what I'm
right.
saying is you cannot pick and choose. You have
Mm,
to either you take it with a grain of salt. If you don't like it, here's how you get rid of people like Terry Crews in those comments. You see it and you just leave it there. All those likes and all those shares from people that don't fuck with him, all you're doing is giving him attention. You made it a lot bigger than what it ever could have been. Because if I blink that post, 6 people are gonna like that shit, and maybe 50 people are gonna see it. That ain't nobody. You could
You'd be
these
surprised. Random tweets go viral.
they do random tweets do go viral, and that's only if it's usually the ones that if it's exponential ex
I would help you, but I
substantially.
don't even
I
know
don't
which
know.
word you were
me
looking
neither.
for.
They're very funny.
I,
My whatever. It's very usually they're very funny, or they're very controversial.
mhm,
And I mean like to an extreme where it's like literally almost kind of blatant. Um,
right,
what I'm saying is, once again, attention is what gives that person the power. If you can't
right,
say that somebody not saying anything at all is not detrimental, because that's still anything you say or anything you don't say, anything you do, anything you say will and can and will be used against you in a court of law, right?
right.
Anything you say, anything you do can and will be used against you in a court of law, correct?
Public opinion.
Also,
Yes.
anything you don't do and anything you don't say will also be used in the court of law.
Are these our Miranda rights right now?
No,
I'm a look. I
this
see
is
what you.
there's nothing that you can say. You can sit here and
Hmm.
attack him all you want. He could have said
I'm not
anything.
attacking him.
You could have said, and he could have said anything, and anybody, if they didn't like it, would have interpreted it the way they wanted to. And he could have
Right,
said anything, and somebody that didn't agree or did agree is going to say what they. Oh, I
right,
don't get what you get from that post. I also don't get that he's fully like it didn't sound like your typical Black Lives Matter posts, right? So I get why people would feel a type of way. He was almost kind of blaming a lot of it could come across as blaming the black community for giving off a certain message. It could come across
mm,
that way. I'm not saying that it can't. I'm also trying to say like it sounds like you can interpret that he's advocating for us to look at each other as the same. And if that's what he's saying, which that's really what he's saying. He's saying that we're all the same, and make sure we're not coming across as we're better.
My thing
So
is,
that's literally what it said.
but
no,
I.
I think that was his intention, but for me, I don't put too much I don't
That's
hold too much weight on what celebrities say, but I'm just saying it didn't make sense to me because even if he did feel like we were turning in this into a Black Lives Are Better thing, we don't have no power to be better. Like there are specific systematic institutions that make sure we are never going to be better. So even if people do feel like that, I get what you're saying. Like his intention is just like, we're all equal, this and the third. But to me, it just ain't make no sense. Tell me if you agree or not.
Look,
About it not making sense.
Yes.
look.
Because you were saying earlier that like, people don't like criticism, which I understand what you meant by that. Like, yeah, people are going to be upset if you obviously disagree with their argument. But even if one
See,
individual or a couple, what's up?
I would make the argument that
Uh,
I make the argument right here, right
mm-hmm.
now. I don't care what any white person has to say about anything. We are where we are at after 400 years of being pretty much severely oppressed. We're at where we're at. Before, obviously the Jim Crow laws and all this stuff came into place. Obviously, we had communities that were thriving under horrific conditions.
Situations.
And it's not even oppression. It's brutal. It's brutalization.
Regardless, even worse. But I'm not. All I'm saying to you is let's stop acting ignorant like black people don't believe that we are better. There's proof that we are.
I agreed with. There are definitely those people who feel that way.
Oh, as a group, there's proof. If you look at it, there's proof. The shit that we've been through as a group, as a community in history.
It's unbelievable.
There's proof that we are better. I'm not saying we go and advocate, but if you think about it, we're playing a game where we have no pieces and we're still in it as a group. So
right.
if anyone wanted to take it that way, you could look at it that way, because he's saying it could be interpreted that. All I'm saying is there's so many different ways. You have to look at it literally with like unbiased, clean slate. Like, what is he trying to say?
I understand what you're saying, but you didn't answer my question if you agreed with what I said previously or not.
I didn't answer the question. It makes sense to me what he said. To me, it makes sense. I don't know what he intended to say, and I think that he could have said it better. But it makes sense. In the way where you're saying it, no, obviously we don't have the resources to be better in the sense we're more financially stable. But obviously that's not the only way you can interpret it. So yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agreed with some of your parts and points before.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like, yes, to that one point. But better doesn't necessarily mean richer. So
I'm not. I guess everything is to interpretation.
And
that's why I just felt like it made no sense to me.
But all right, so do you see how detrimental his words, not him, not Terry Crews,
detrimental,
the words that he said, do you see how detrimental they can be now?
I still don't think these words are detrimental. I will.
How so?
Well, detrimental is.
So I think that it's detrimental maybe to people who are easily influenced, but Brandon is a free thinker and he just can't grasp the thought of it being.
I think it's detrimental for people who. But I'll reform what you said, and I think people who think that way are detrimental to themselves. People who react that way are detrimental to themselves. I believe that. I don't believe anybody's words mean anything until you give it a meaning, until you interpret it the way you want it to. If we texting right now and I don't use no emojis and I say something you might take that as real blunt and you're gonna have your feelings hurt because I forgot to put LOL at the end of it. Right? It's all up for interpretation. Somebody else might see that and be like, whatever, and then type, not even know. I could be really attacking them, but they don't know because they just saw it and they didn't give it a second thought. People who can do that, or at least think and sit there and obviously look into it before reacting. That if you can't do that, yes, you're a detriment to yourself. You can only be a detriment to yourself. Nobody else can say it unless they got you in cuffs and I'm gonna kill this person if you can't blah blah blah. Those are detrimental words because it clearly affects you. You have no say, no nothing. You can't do anything about it. That clearly affects you because you're powerless, right? You are able to go out. Yes, we are oppressed as people. We are still able to go out and do certain things. Yes, him saying that's not gonna stop me from going to my job. Him saying that's not gonna stop me from going outside and turning my car on. Him saying that's not gonna stop me from going to see my mom. It doesn't stop me from doing anything. I still live my life. I still breathe. My life is the same. Nothing else changed for better or for worse. Yes or no? So I'm asking you what the detriment is. There's so many things we watch in the movies. We watch. There's a whole freaking play called Hamilton on Disney Plus, and all the people that are playing it, they're all Hispanic and black, playing white roles, and we and singing. It's a whole musical on that shit, and people are like, oh my god, Hamilton. That's a detriment to me. We playing all these characters. Black people playing all these characters. They're white people that they're playing, and they're singing and chucking and jiving on stage. You could look at it that way, right? That's how you can interpret it one way if you wanted to. But if you're a fan of Hamilton, the play, of course you're not going to see it that way, black or not, because you want to see that shit because you like the actors in it. Those are detriments because it makes you divide. His words don't matter to me. His words shouldn't matter to anybody. If you don't agree with his words, he obviously is not the celebrity for you. Celebrities shouldn't have that much power. They should not. I don't think his words are a detriment. I don't.
But to answer your question, because you asked how, in this time, it can be detrimental because it can be. I'm not saying it is. It can be because we are, as a collective, fighting for bare minimal human rights. Period. That's what we're fighting for.
We're not.
Like, because if there was no cops killing black people, there would be no Black Lives Matter hashtag, because there would be understood what's understood
there
that
would
had to
be
said.
there would be the focus.
But I'm just saying though.
The movement being focused on the cops is a detriment.
I'm just saying
being
though.
focused on the cops is a detriment.
I'm just saying, right?
I know what you're saying, but I'm just telling you right now there would be. If there were no cops killing black people, there would still be doctors killing black people. There would still be people killing black people. So what I'm telling you is,
so even with that sentiment, right? Even with that sentiment, because it can go straight to the police, discussion topic. Even with that, it's even more detrimental because there are still systems that we still have to fight, and we're only focusing on one. And there's more that we have to unpack. There's more that we have to dive into.
Exactly.
And for him to say, oh, we must not forget that it's Black Lives Matter, not Black Lives Better. Bro, we haven't even gotten past this. I can see who was making strides. I can see who was winning in the courtrooms, and people were getting convicted. But we're not even doing that. So why are you saying that?
Exactly. And are we getting anywhere by dwelling on what he said?
Right, this are is a we? Podcast, baby.
No. I'm not. I don't care. I'm not talking about us. As a community.
Okay.
We should. Let's not forget how to think long. Now. Are we getting anywhere as people, dwelling on what he said?
No.
Okay.
And we shouldn't dwell too long, but we could.
You shouldn't dwell.
The only thing we should do is correct them because of what the impact and the influence that his words have. Period.
Well, what I'm saying is, the detriment is not in his words. I just told you. Once again, all the media coverage stopped with the protests a long time ago. There's still some going on. It was always pinpointed at just police brutality, and then nothing else after that. There were never any plans in place. It was only blind protests, right? With a narrative that the media gave as a solution, and once that happened, we should be happy. Once those officers were detained and arrested, we should be happy, right? No, there's still an overwhelming percentage of Black and Hispanic people being oppressed or killed in other areas all over the country. It's not just the police brutality we should be fighting for. People are scared when they're pregnant. They're scared to go to a hospital because it's clear as day that Black and Hispanic moms don't get the proper help that they need when they're in the hospital, whether they are allowed to go, to hemorrhage and die that way, or whether they're given what's it called, the husband stitch, where they stitch them up too tight because they want the husband to have a pleasure during intercourse. Like all this stuff goes on, and it's not just cops, it's doctors, it's lawyers, it's the whole system. And we just focusing on cops. And you talking about a detrimental quote from Terry Crews, who means nothing. And all this stuff is way bigger than him. That's why that's a detriment in itself. To call that quote a detriment when we got all this shit going on and you focusing on that one quote. And he's a detriment.
Can I pull a you? Can I pull a you real quick?
Pull a me real quick because you can't.
All right, so to your point, let's just say is it not a fact that we still use quotes from Albert Einstein?
So Terry
Isaac
Crews is
Newton.
Albert Einstein right
No,
now.
No. Stick with me.
And Albert Einstein.
Follow me.
I was about to say,
It's
you're
hard-
losing me.
it's
I
hard
hope
to
you bring
follow
it
you
back.
because- It's hard to follow you, bro.
Because you just said the last thing you just said is his quote is not detrimental.
It's not.
Quotes.
Okay.
Quotes.
It's not. But go ahead.
And in this world lasts longer than the person do. That's a fact.
What happened?
People's quotes, what people say can, depending on how it moves through time, can last longer than that person. Quotes, because people use people's quotes all the time. I'm talking about from the 1700s, the 1600s, philosophers. Yo, Plato, mathematics, all the mathematicians in Greece, they still use their quotes, their ideologies, their theories.
Give me some names.
Plato.
I may recognize them.
Plato, Pythagorean. Yeah, thank you, because that name. All of the large majority of Greek philosophers and mathematicians, we still use their ideology. We still go by their theories to this day. All of the theories that are named after all of these Greek mathematicians and all these Greek philosophers, yo, bro, quotes last longer than people. Quotes can have a detriment. Quotes can build a society.
Well,
Quotes
Terry
can
Crews'
destroy a
comments
society.
that we just read, will his quote be remembered a year from now? I'm not doing this with you right now, Will. I'm really not. You're not gonna sit here and tell me
that's you. That's something you would do.
That's not a me because
to prove your point.
Yo, that's not a me. You didn't even bring up anything that you could be like, like I can see that. Even from off the rip, Terry Albert Einstein.
So I have a quote for you.
Oh my God. Of course, you have a quote every episode. You have a quote.
I have a quote for you
that you can barely remember. That you barely ever remember.
Facts. Matter for every action there's a
reaction.
Equal and opposite reaction.
Yes.
That's a famous quote.
From who?
I think it was
Boondocks.
Isaac Newton on gravity. I could be wrong. Don't quote me.
I'm not.
It's a quote on gravity.
And what did Isaac Newton do? Supposedly.
Isaac Newton was a very renowned philosopher. Was he a physicist? There we go. Ooh. I was about to say mathematician.
All I'm trying to say to you is that a lot of these quotes that you're about to say and tell me about is from people that innovated and supposedly changed the way of life, that changed the way we saw the world and how we operated throughout. What has Terry Crews done for this community or the world that will make his quotes so renowned and so detrimental?
Hey, bro,
it's not like Martin Luther King.
I'm just proving the point.
It's not like Martin Luther King came from. It's not like he came from the grave. Martin Luther King came from the grave. So you know what? I didn't mean to say I have a dream that we should be holding hands. I have a dream that we should be led by white people throughout life. That's detrimental. When someone of his stature comes out and says some shit like that, and it's like that's detrimental. Terry Crews.
His daughter replied to it though. I forgot what she said, but she was basically like, "No, Martin Luther King's daughter." She basically was like, "It's probably not the way we should be moving right now, Terry." Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he's coming from a place where it's like, "Oh, I believe all y'all my brothers and sisters," and a lot of people right now ain't trying to hear that. But he's not.
A lot of people are not displaying that.
Worded it weird.
A lot of people are not displaying that, but that's black people too. Black people ain't trying to hear that right now. You tell somebody, we should just love each other. Black people don't want to hear that shit. So that's what I'm saying. If you have that sentiment where you're not trying to hear that, of course you're going to automatically disagree. You're not even going to read this whole quote. You're going to hear brothers and sisters, which is one of the first things he said, and then just dub the shit from there. And and then you get to the rest. Of course, you're not going to follow that because we didn't follow the first 2-3 words he said. All I'm saying is he's not necessarily wrong, but he isn't right either. And it's you interpret it the way you want to interpret it, and that's solely on you. The detriment is on how you react. he cannot be a detriment because his words, literally, his quotes mean nothing. They don't hold any weight for any community. The black community has never revered him in any way, ever. So how can his quotes be detrimental to us? It could be detrimental to himself and his image, right? But it can't be detrimental to us unless we make him that powerful by complaining about it and making him that big and that much of an icon off of that one quote. And then all of a sudden he becomes the center of attention, which means that, yes, they were detrimental because we reacted that way, which meant that we were a detriment to ourselves because we gave him that much attention in the first place. But he cannot be a detriment unless we make him that way.
You know that was a good closing argument.
Thank you.
I'm ready to move on from the topic. All right. But I like the way you closed it.
Not sponsored by
And Will, I agree with some of your points as well. It was a good argument. You put up a fight. Y'all both put up a fight. I saw the black boxing gloves.
That's round 9 right there. Knockout. KO.
It was not knockout. It was like, nah. Now let's talk about July 7th, 2020, also known as Blackout Tuesday. Did y'all buy anything on Tuesday?
Nope.
Any groceries?
I didn't buy.
No.
I subscribed.
I want to say no.
That's good. Check y'all out. I was gonna buy from a black business, but I did last week.
I bought a bus ticket, train ticket.
But where were you going to work?
Nah, I was going to Jersey.
No.
Oh, okay. Dang.
So, I mean,
I don't even know.
But I knew in advance though. So
you didn't buy anything else?
Nah, actually, I didn't. I didn't get the chance to. I didn't get the time. Oh yeah.
So do you think that? Well, I guess like, how much of an impact do we think Blackout Tuesday did?
Nothing at all.
I don't even know.
Like, even in terms of solidarity, you don't think it did anything?
No.
I mean, for the people who participated, that's solidarity.
There's too many of us in the world for anything like that to ever work. I'm hearing stories because my girl works at Old Navy, and I guess apparently, like, it was a mom and a daughter was like, "Oh, we shouldn't be shopping today." And the mom was like, "I don't give a fuck about that." And then I guess the daughter clapped back.
I'm guessing they were black.
Yeah, and the daughter clapped back and was like, "This is why the country don't care about us." Like, but apparently, this is and what I'm saying is, there's so many people within our movement that cling to our movement when it is convenient for them, but don't necessarily want to rock with everything that comes with it, right? So everyone knew about this. People said they didn't care, and that's not just one instance, one family. That's all over the country. People didn't care. Black people didn't care. Black people celebrated July 4th, all out there doing, in the streets, acting crazy, shooting up the fireworks, all that. Black people didn't care. It was a moment. That's been a holiday, time to get together and celebrate the country's Independence Day. But everyone was talking all that shit before, right? So what I'm saying is, it's tough to get us to be like this on everything. It's not going to happen. That didn't make a dent in anything.
It's tough with, I think, any group. I feel like they should be continued Blackout Tuesdays, and probably more consistently than just like, I honestly don't know how like July 7th became the day. I don't know if some random person was just like, well, that's it on the calendar. But I'm just thinking like, the bus boycott, anytime you want change, is definitely going to be through a person's pockets. And the Montgomery bus boycott was obviously a good example of that, because they stopped taking the bus for, I don't even know. Will, do you know? You always a history person. Months, right? Right. And eventually,
leading up to years, I probably.
Pockets were hurt so bad, they were like, nah, we gotta let these black people on the bus wherever they want. Also, fun fact, I read that was the reason why there's 2 entrances on the bus right now, because the back entrance was originally for black people only to come on the bus. I didn't know that before. But yeah. I think it helps. I just think it would be something we would have to do like the Montgomery bus boycott for months. But that's hard willpower. And like Brandon always says, it's damn near impossible to not feed into the economy in that way, because you're gonna die essentially if you're only buying black. It's hard to find.
That's the way they make it. It's not necessarily like you can do it, but I just mean, you want a job. Like, if you want to work somewhere, and you going to school to do this and do that, and you talking about people who join the police force or the military, and you going to school to become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, you going to school to do something, you better be you gonna be real disappointed if you ever decide to open up that browser and get to searching on what you about to get yourself into, because you're not gonna find a lot of places in this country that they don't got dirt under their nails or don't support what you don't support. So but
But
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, you can have a dirty past, but it's still like corruption within police. But I also,
Dirty past don't mean you're not doing it now.
yeah, that's what I was
All
saying with
habits don't
police.
die. So
I feel like
what
just with police is just blatant in our face. But you both argue it on the media, which could be true. I don't know.
that I find that scary that it's blatant in our face, because it takes attention off the stuff that should be
That's a
still
fact.
given attention.
That's a
So I
fact.
feel like they're willing to take that L in that area because we're not attacking all the other areas. Like,
That's a
how are we
fact.
going to complain? And it makes it tough now to want to fight for those other areas of oppression, because now it's like, oh, y'all always complaining, and it's like, no, this we've been fighting the whole time, and somewhere across the line they got misconstrued and they're just police brutality.
Even if it's not in the media, though, it's still like through our experiences and people we know experiences. So that's why people are harder on the police, and especially because their job is to supposedly protect people,
You
which is
trust
why people are, well, I
hospitals?
trust. I mean, not after what I read about Black women and pregnancies, to be honest. But I don't got no choice. What am I gonna do? Die?
Is that
That's
You
the
give a home
thing. Like
birth. You could do a
it's
home
all
birth.
you could
A
do.
lot,
I'm
a
saying
lot of
like
women are like, nah, but
you could do a
oh,
home birth, but
and
I'm
it's
saying
natural
like
and it's
if something happened right now, I can't be like, man, fuck that hospital. Like I
yeah.
gotta take my ass to the hospital. Like,
exactly? But you don't trust them,
Facts.
true.
and that's all I'm. Nobody. We're not bringing enough attention on all this stuff. It's not just that. Like, police is just a part. It's just like it's like having an equation. Like what's it called? PEMDAS. You have parentheses, and you have to get through the whole equation to find the answer. You can't just focus on parentheses and think you're done with the equation. Just because the police are in parentheses, we're gonna
I like
focus
that.
on that part and forget about the rest, the division and subtraction. They did all that. We're gonna forget about that. We
I'll
got to get to
fight.
the. That's all that's going on right now. So
It's
I
the
like
first
that.
step, if that's
I
the
like that.
case. But if we were to boycott a certain industry, what do you think is the most realistic and the most feasible right now? Because you obviously can't say something like supermarket because we all need food. Yeah, well, you're the only one with the hand up. You could go.
Okay, so I would say this. I would say if all right, let's just say if groups of collectives, not everybody, because everybody's not going to make it. Everybody's not going to do it. If we decided to boycott, if we decided to do anything that would hurt uh, the finances of those companies or corporations that are in control, I feel like it could be a success. It would be a very painful, long, tough road, but it could be successful because, again, stated this in an earlier podcast. Our spending dollar is the highest of any ethnic group in this country, and by populace, we're not even the biggest population uh, in this country. So I feel like it's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be simple, but I'm saying, can we do it? Yes, we've done it.
What's up,
The only,
Brandon?
okay,
sorry, I'm gonna let you
my
finish.
bad.
But you use detrimental a lot. You threw it around all over the place today.
Damn, that could be word of the day for him.
It's going to
I
be for
mean,
the
you
rest
gotta
of the
have a
episode.
word. You gotta have a word.
He could
And
have the little book with the words
yeah,
of the days.
but
Facts.
we sat there and blamed it on a whole celebrity. But you just brought up another fact. The black dollar is pretty much I guess, what do you call it? The most
Biggest
uh
consumers by far
yeah, but
are
it's like
Black
the
people.
most valuable, I guess you could say, for a certain community of people, because we give it to them. You want to talk about detrimental, we're a detriment to ourselves. We're giving them our money. So once again, we quick to blame somebody else within our community for doing
I
certain
didn't
things.
blame him.
I'm not okay. Well, you don't speak for the rest of the community, so
That is true.
we quick to blame somebody else for our struggles and mishaps or whatever, certain images, and we don't blame ourselves. That's 10 million, 10 billion.
It's 1.7 trillion. I think
1.7 trillion. That was way off.
Yeah.
But I would
per year.
A year annually, and I don't know why.
The black dollar only.
Please fact check me. But I think it keeps going up every year.
That's a lot of bread.
Not by a lot. Not by
That's
a lot.
a hell of a lot of money.
No, it's definitely over $1 trillion. And I think it's definitely keeps going.
Well, I would like to tell you right now, that's hard to believe. 1.7 trillion is hard to believe.
Just off black people.
If you heard that, if you heard 1.3 trillion dollars a year,
I'm about to Google this.
If you heard that and someone said it's y'all fault that you're in the position y'all in, could you get mad at them for saying that? Could you, honest to God, if you saw that number,
yes,
and you heard us complaining, and you heard us complaining about certain things, and you were on the outside looking in, you saw that number, you can get mad at that person for saying y'all. What? How?
Hell yeah.
How?
Now, if it's coming from a person from a different ethnic group, yes, and the only reason why is because
they're not black.
No.
That's the only. That could be the only.
So
reason.
I feel like
you brought up ethnic group.
There are examples of where we shown our self-sufficiency. That's not to say that it wasn't passed down, because I feel like it was not passed down, but the result of that was the ultimate destruction of our self-sufficiency. That has been documented through history. And I would say that for other ethnic groups, I'm not going to say that it never happened, that situations didn't occur, but to the degree and to the magnitude that it happened, multiple examples, it's very specific to us. So would I get mad for somebody saying, "Oh, it's y'all fault"? Hell yeah, because if especially if that person is coming from another country and they get to become lumped in with a group of people. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. When you come to this country as an immigrant, you are automatically lumped in with other people who are probably native to the country that you're going to, because of the color of your skin, because of the way you look. We could debate it. You could debate. I don't care, but that is a reality. So to answer your question. Yes.
You didn't answer my question yet? Talking that whole time.
I did.
So, answer my question.
According to 2019 article, it's $1.2 trillion annually.
So $1.2 trillion annually. And you're telling me that if someone said that, you couldn't even see. You couldn't even be like, maybe you were right. Maybe we are.
I mean,
no, I wouldn't, because here's why.
No. I want to hear now, Sarah.
Oh, sorry.
I wouldn't, because most minorities, black people, people of color, Hispanic, whatever, are living paycheck to paycheck, and white people hoard wealth. That's what they do. Like, that's how they stay rich. They don't spend money. Most of the time, they don't have an option but to spend money, because that's how they survive. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't have a lot of money in their savings for those reasons. So I could see why they spend more. But there's a lot of black people there's a lot of people, period, who spend money on stupid stuff.
And those people are doing what? Living paycheck to paycheck. I'm
thinking of rappers specifically.
I'm thinking of people like you and me. People like rappers. Once again, they sign contracts, signing their lives away to put our community and put certain images out there that is a detriment to our community. They sign their lives away. That's us. That's if we accept them in our community, then that means that when they do that and we acknowledge that the radios and all that in the music industry is corrupt, we are acknowledging that our own people signed contracts, they signed to labels, and they allowed this to happen, which means it's our fault. We have people that know they can't afford the lifestyle of these rappers that live check to check, that would rather get a nice car with rims than a nice home. They'll rather have Gucci and Louis Vuitton all this stuff than things they can actually afford. We know that people in our community do this to floss and to to flex on people and to make it seem like they got a better life than what they actually got. We understand that that happens within our community. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, like with it. Obviously, there are certain things that were instilled and that were practiced over the last decades, um, centuries, that keep us or put us in a certain spot to make us want certain things, right? But to say that we don't play a part, um, as a group, as a community, as a whole, because there's a lot of us, more than they give credit for, because they're scared of that growing number. But there's a lot of us, and there's a lot. Some of us and a lot of us do play a part, and this. There's a lot of us that right now can say, oh, I spent money on a lot of bullshit. I wish I didn't spend that on.
I just spent money on a new case that I definitely did not need.
We all do it. We all listen to somebody. We all listen to somebody that we like them. We know that they don't got the best message, but like their music might be hot. The beat might be fire, so I rock with the song. Like we support a lot of shit within our community that we probably shouldn't. And we're listening to a lot of Black and Hispanic artists that are taking a check from white people to have these songs out that you would be surprised. All the songs that they have that will never get released because the label said fuck that we don't want to hear that shit. And they gotta go with the club with the banger, because that's what's gonna sell for the label, and the radio station is gonna put that on repeat. So these are us, and they signed the label knowing that, which is why I fuck with independent artists, because they understand and they're not looking for the fast check. So when we never want to put the blame with these are people that we claim within our community. They're Black and they know this, and they'll get out of the industry and they'll sit there and tell you, oh, don't do this, don't do that. They knew what they got themselves into, and then they got out and maybe they changed, but they knew, which means that maybe by them saying that they did it, they're trying to fix their ways, but they participated. They're Black, which means that A plus B equals C, right? A plus B equals C. Black person did this to their own community, which means Black person played a part in the detriment, which means Black people do play a part in their own demise.
Now, I still would be mad if someone said that to me.
I'm not saying you can't be mad. I'm not saying you can't be mad. I'm not even saying that I wouldn't be mad hearing it. But to get, that's like reacting to the Terry Crews statement. You hear it and you attack. No. You don't even give it a second thought. Like, I didn't like that shit, but yo, he's not wrong.
Right? I see a point. I see the point in it, because we all have choices. Like I said, I just bought a case I really did not need for no reason because it looked nice. But I also understand, again, like I said before, that there are other reasons why Black people are probably the number one consumers, because they're living paycheck to paycheck most of the time. But of course, we all have choices like that we need to reevaluate our lives about.
And to your point too, first of all, this is going to sound very contradictory, so stick with me. I agree with everything you said, but even in everything that you said,
it's once in a lifetime.
But even in everything that you said, when it comes to people, and even people in our community, but specifically for people outside of our community, who tell us, who will directly tell us, oh, maybe you guys should get over this because you guys are part of the problem as well, or maybe you guys should focus on yourselves because you're part of the problem as well. Now, the reason why I find discomfort in
once again, that's something that you added on. Has nothing to do with what I said. You added that last part on. So this point you're about to make is based off of a addition to a quote or a statement that I proposed. Didn't say anything about get over anything. So,
but it doesn't matter. You can spew it. You can say any of the things. Like, you can interchange them. You can say all of them.
I understand, but you're adding on a part. Okay. Where I can't. You can't agree with whatever you just added on to. Of course, you cannot let that shit slide. You can't even think about possibly even considering it. I'm saying if someone came to you and said, oh, you guys, you look at that on a piece of paper and you see all of this money that could have been put elsewhere. invested in elsewhere, and they just point out a fact of, hey, this is your community. This is what I spend your money on. This is part of the problem. And you wouldn't want to hear that shit. They didn't say nothing about. I'm not adding nothing on about get over it. I'm not adding nothing. I'm just saying a strict fact. You brought up numbers, right? And obviously we can't. It's impossible to like Sarah said. It's almost impossible for certain people to spend their money on certain things without, because of out of necessity. Or because they don't got the it's there and they need that dire whatever. But there are people that choose even though they know they can't or they shouldn't, that they choose to.
Right.
So we have to add those people in too. So when you can continue your point, but your point you were going down, you started adding all that extra stuff onto it. That's not addressing my point.
Right.
So
to address your point, people outside of our communities have a grandiose time nitpicking and critiquing our community, and it's accepted to a certain degree. So that's why I find discomfort, because if we really want to go into every single community and start to analyze and like nitpick at every little thing that community does, the 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 bar or the expectation of these people, these outside people, having the freedom to just critique our community and to micromanage our community would disappear, because every community has their good and their bad. The black community, as we speak, has their good and their bad. But what do? Even if it's good and bad, they will come in and they will micromanage our community. That's the real problem. That's the real problem. And it's a fact. Name me any community. As I was thinking in my head, I was like, the Jews, hell no. We don't. A lot of people don't come at the Jews like they come at black people. You can think of. I was thinking about the Albanian community. People don't come at Albanian community like they come at the black community, the white community.
Talking about in
and
America?
We know. Yeah, of course.
I've expressed to you already why.
Okay, but to your point, to the point that you made, and that's why find. No, I said to the point that you made. To the point that you made, that's why I said I find discomfort in it. That's why I said that yes, I would be mad if somebody, especially somebody from outside of our community, was saying your point, the thing that you said, because I don't want to add anything to it. I want to be very specific. I would be mad. Yes, 100%.
You would be
and
more
that's
mad.
The reason why.
You wouldn't. So you wouldn't even. I wouldn't be mad to the point where I. So if a black person, if Terry Crews said, "Hey, we're spending 10 or 1.2 trillion dollars a year, and we're not putting enough," it's our fault that we a big part of the problem in our community. You just gonna be like, "Oh, he's black, so yeah, I'm not mad at that." No.
No. If a person outside of our community said
you're not gonna be
things,
mad if Terry Crews said
if a person, I would be mad. But hold on, if a person outside of our community said these things, I wouldn't listen to the whole thing and disregard everything that they said. But I would say in response, why do you feel the need to say anything about my community?
I wouldn't be mad at Terry Crews for saying it.
But you were mad at him for saying that.
Hold on.
I wasn't mad at him. I said it didn't make sense to me.
When it comes to Terry Crews, if Terry Crews was to say it, I'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Like, how can you say that? And then I would have the dialogue with him. But just like I would have the dialogue
How can you say that? How could you bring up a fact and implement it into a sentence?
That sounds like an opinion.
You just literally said $1.2 trillion.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you talking about that?
I'm talking about if Terry Crews said that.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad at him. I'm gonna be mad at him. Nah, because I was referring back to the Terry Crews quote
Holy shit.
and
Okay.
not
He
the
thought you was talking about
1.2
the other
trillion.
post.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I know what he
Um,
thought I was talking about, but still, the fact that he
but
said I wouldn't be mad.
what I wouldn't be
You
mad
would
at
be
him, but I
mad,
would be
Brandon?
like, but
If
but but if Terry Crews said that, I would be like, bro, okay, do you understand the various methods that keep us pigeonholed to a place where we cannot thrive on our own, be left alone? Because
So why
let's
do
be
you bring
real.
up that? Why do you even bring up that you always bring up that fact, right?
Mhm.
As if to say, like, if we just stop spending our money here, we can do this, we can do that, right? You always no, hold on. You always bring up that
Mhm.
fact. So now I bring it up in an analogy
Right.
where, and now all of a sudden you're bringing up all these obstacles that keep us from
Mhm.
spending, right?
No, 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 no,
How is
no, no,
that?
no.
What do you mean? No, you
I
always bring up this fact.
one
You
one
always talk about this
one
fact.
one. When I talk about this fact, I don't do it as I do it to have us understand in the conversation or
Where our
in the
money's going
context of the
and
power
where
that
it
we
can
have,
go.
of the power that we have.
How
Period.
we so we have so now okay you just said so
Because
of the power that we have,
right, right,
and the power where we put our power, right?
right.
So you're gonna tell me that we don't have power because we actually can't
No,
control where we spend the money?
no,
Because you
no, no,
just said there's so many
no.
methods and practices in place that keep us from spending our money.
I in this context, when it comes to Terry Crews, if Terry Crews was to say this, I would I would have the conversation with him. I would be mad, but I would be mad because he doesn't know, or he said it and doesn't understand that in the throughout the history of this country, it's not the fact that we can't do it. It's not the fact that we haven't done it. It's
So
the
there's no
fact that
power.
we. What are you talking about?
There's no power then. You said that we have power. There's no power then.
No, I was referring to the fact that the 1.2 trillion. That every time I bring it up just to put in perspective the power that we have as a collective, as a group.
So
But for your example of Terry Crews coming to me and saying, "Oh, yo, bro, we spent 1.2 trillion, blah 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 blah."
no, ain't no blah 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 blah. Finish what I said.
We spent 1.2 trillion, so it's we're kind of a detriment to ourselves because we haven't been able to.
That's not
I'm
what I
sorry.
said, but yeah, it's more along the
Right,
lines.
right.
Yes, okay. So what
So
I'm
so
saying is,
to
you
so to
just
that
pointed
to
out
that
that 1.2 trillion is power. That's the power that we have as a
yes,
community.
and for this specific,
It doesn't change. It does not change
it it
for this.
doesn't it. But how I'm going to approach Terry
Of
Crews
course, because you need to be
is
right.
I no. I'm going to approach Terry Crews and be like, bro, I see what you're saying, but how can you say that when throughout history in this country
You said you. So
we
explain to me what happened the aftermath of Levittown. Do you know what that is? Levittown.
that was in Pennsylvania, Chicago.
Just explain to me. You know what it is, right?
Yeah.
With the Levittown and the selling of homes and how they put in the deeds where they wouldn't be able
Oh
to
yeah,
sell it.
yeah,
To,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so you understand obviously
That's an
of
obstacle, by the way.
that of course that's why I'm bringing it up.
Right.
I'm not. You
Okay.
cannot deny that. But
Right.
I'm saying there's so many things. If I asked you to explain that to me and explain to me
Mm.
what they did and the process of how they implemented it and how it still affects us today, I will want you to explain to me in detail since you know so much about all the processes and procedures of history. When you talk to Terry Crews, because apparently he doesn't know. Like if I ask you certain things in history, you need to know them. What I'm saying to
Right.
you is you can't in one statement say that 1.2 trillion. You bring it up because that shows the power that we have as a community.
So
And
you're
then
saying so you said
hold on, I'm not done.
okay.
You bring that up. You said that power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then when I say, if someone says, hey, you guys spend $1.2 trillion every year and it's not being implemented in the places that you guys are advocating for, right?
Right.
You just said you brought it up as power that we have. Someone else is
I,
saying we're spending it, but we're not in the right places, which means that it's partially our fault. So if you can use that as saying it's our spending power, it's a power that we have as a community, that not clearly means that whoever says we're not putting in the right spot is not wrong based off your words.
Would you be mad, Brandon,
If
if
what?
he said that? If
If
or if any black person said
wait,
that?
wait, 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 wait. Hold on. Before, because no, I get what you're saying, Sarah. I get what you're saying, but hold on to that real quick, Brandon. when I said that
You said what?
the 1.2 trillion
Yes.
comment that I always make.
Yes, always. Literally.
I say it for us to realize the power that we have, that spending power that we have, and how we can utilize that power in different ways.
Okay.
Right?
So what does that? Wait. Break that down real quick. Break down what you just said real quick, because you may not have to go any further. Repeat what you said in your head and tell me that you did not just say exactly what I just said.
No.
No. Repeat it for me real quick, and as if you didn't say it. And tell me that you did not just say what I just said.
You said in your interpretation of what I said.
Sarah, did you hear what he said?
The 1.2 trillion equals the spending power that we have.
Sarah, did you heard what he just said?
He repeated it.
And you're telling me that that's different than what I just said.
I say
no, I agree with you. That's why I asked you if you would be mad.
When I say it.
So Sarah, before we continue, like I said, you might not have to go any further. Sarah just said too. It sounded pretty much just like what I just said.
When I say it, I say it to make the point, to have us understand, to realize. Not to say that. Not to.
I'm hearing you. I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with why you're saying it. I'm saying you're saying the same thing that I just said, just because. But what you're saying is, if someone outside the community or someone else said it, you'd have to school them or educate them. When you literally just said it, you just said I'd have to talk to him because he played.
I'm talking.
He doesn't know.
Terry Crews.
Exactly.
Terry another Crews, black man.
Terry Crews,
I would ask him.
Terry Crews and the outsider that we spoke about. That was the conversation we just had. It doesn't matter. Either way, you'd be mad and want to school them. On the
not gonna lie.
I would be mad at the outsider, the person outside of our community, and say, okay, if you want to do that, let's do it for all communities. Let's micromanage all communities, because the black community is micromanaged. That's a fact. But when it comes to Terry Crews specifically, I would look at Terry Crews and say to Terry Crews, bro, I hear what you're saying, but how can you say that when throughout history we had the means?
Well, you're gonna educate him, like I just said.
No. We just had the means. We had the means, and we actually did it. We actually did exactly what you said. So how can you say that?
Did what?
And we used our spending power. We used our power generally. And we created whole communities. We created whole thriving, self-sufficient communities.
But we're talking about today.
No. Also, I understand. But I would ask him why. I would ask him why. How can you say that?
You just said it. You said.
How can you? No. I would ask him, how can you say that right now when there are moments in history, there are examples of us being able to.
When you talked about your 1.2 trillion and how, you're saying it to show, or to show us our spending power and how it can be used in different places. Obviously, you're acknowledging that it's not being used in all of the right places. As you're acknowledging that when you say that. So what I'm saying to you is, you're saying that same thing and then disagreeing with it when it's presented to you in a different way that you might not agree with. It's the same thing. It's just blunt. You're part of the problem, and you just said it yourself in a different way that doesn't sound that same.
How so?
Because you just agreed that the 1.2 trillion is power, black power that we're spending. That's our capital. Right. You agree that it's not being implemented in the right ways. It's not being invested in all the places that we're advocating for right now. Today, it hasn't been. You agree with that? Because if it was, obviously we would be
having this conversation.
Exactly. You agree with that. And you have to, because you literally just said it. And if you didn't. So what I'm saying to you is, someone says, Terry Crews or anybody says, hey, 1.2 trillion on a piece of paper. They're not saying nothing derogatory. They're looking at the black spending dollar and all the expenses, and literally just reading on the list, and they can come to the conclusion, hey, like, the black community is part. They play a part. And you're saying you would not agree, but you just said you agree in your own words. So you just don't agree with it coming from somebody else's mouth.
No, I said that I would be mad, and for the person out, because I'm using the two examples of the two different types of people. For a person outside the community, I would be mad, and I would respond with
some type of education.
No, respond with so I would respond with, yo, since you want to micromanage the black community, let's micromanage your community, every community.
So you will respond with a potential fact, but defensiveness.
I'm not going to front. Brandon, I don't know if you could say this because you might, but if you hear it from the outsider, it's gonna hit the heart different. You can't
If
lie.
if 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 you hear it from somebody, it would hit different. But what I'm saying to is, my first reaction with anybody, explain. What do you mean by that?
You
Because
a
if you can't,
patient
if
person.
you can't, I'm not a patient person. I'm the person I feel like everybody should be. I feel like when it comes to reacting off of certain things, right? I have a short temper. I argue, right? I get offended. I'm sensitive when it comes to certain subjects. When I feel like it matters, when I feel like I'm a representation of my people, and certain comments, if an outsider says something to me, my best in my best interest, it doesn't mean that I sit there and I act rash and defensive. Maybe now this is my time to step up for my community and handle it a certain way. What do you mean by that?
Off
Maybe
rip,
what do you mean by
that's
that?
ideal. That's ideal behavior. But off rip, I'm not gonna lie, I know I
I
would be mad at first, and then eventually I'm sure it will lead to a
but
conversation.
but imagine, just hear me out. You're not black right now. I'm sorry. You're just
Random
an
color.
energy. Your energy and the universe, and
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at a piece of paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you obviously there's as obvious obstacles, whatever. But you're looking at a piece of paper that says $1.2 trillion. That means this was coming from the black community. That means the black community as a whole at some point spent this money. It's not like it was in their pockets at one point, right? You're looking at it and you're looking at the investments or where the money went. And you're looking at the places that obviously the people and the companies and the areas of interest that it should have been and that we're advocating for now.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing that on a piece of paper, almost like a mathematical equation. And you're saying, someone's saying and coming to the conclusion that obviously the black community, in fact, based on that 1.2 trillion dollars, plays a little bit of a factor when you look at some of the things that's being spent on and bigging up and building up certain communities and certain companies. Clearly, that's a fact. Now, looking at it from a place where you have no emotion, you're going to say, okay, well, that's a fact. Now, off that fact alone, no one's discrediting the obstacles or anything that was put there. No one's discrediting. I agree with you. There are obstacles that were put in place. I agree that there are certain things that are done within the community as far as music and other aspects of life that paint this picture in our heads that this is what we should be spending our money on. But that does not mean if I give you a gun, and I tell you to shoot it, that you didn't have the mental capacity not to shoot the gun, right? Yes, we all go through things in life where you know we're told and we're molded a certain way, but people change, or people have their own thoughts. People think their own thoughts. A lot of people talk, oh, where the girls at? Where the girls at? Yo, where the girls at? They come when they come. I'm gonna be all up on top of them, and the girls come and they like this, right? That's the mentality they try to portray. But when shit hits the fan, they all of a sudden they like this. So why can't we hold the same people accountable when they actually go ahead and follow certain brain, what do you call them, the brainwashing and all that stuff, when they actually do it,
Conditioning.
conditioning, right? People have their
Good
own.
word.
Huh?
That's a good word. Like that
Yeah,
was the furthest
conditioning.
thing from my mind.
People have their own thoughts, and some people play into that condition, like I just said with the girls. That's a condition for men to feel that way, like they have to act that way around other men and other women to get respect, so they play into that factor knowing damn well that they ain't really like that. So you don't think there's people that play into that factor of oh, uh, I know I shouldn't be spending my money on this, or I know I shouldn't be listening to this, or I know I should be doing this, but it's what everybody else is doing, so I'm gonna get on that wave. Like when the next Jay's coming out, I don't even
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like.
No, here's the thing. I 100% agreed with you. I literally just admitted to my own buying
No,
my
yeah,
purchases or whatever. But
yeah,
off the strength, like if this was like a conversation from an outsider, it's just hard to hear something from an
it
outsider. And
is.
that's with any community.
Yes,
I'm saying off rip, off my first emotion, I know personally me, I'd be defensive at first. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna act like I wouldn't be defensive. But I would hear them out and I would agree with them if this was the conversation that I was having with the outsider.
the way I see it is like it's like somebody asking a question and they get mad at somebody else for answering honest. Like if someone's fat, right? Am I fat? And someone goes, well, yeah. You're gonna be mad, like
It's
at that
different if you
answer.
ask, though. I'm
You're
saying
right.
like it's different if you ask, because then at that point,
You're
whatever
right.
answer you get is what you wanted.
You're right. So, but what if the question wasn't a question? It was more of a question asked to yourself. Like someone could say, so one could say we're asking. One can say we're asking why is this happening to us. One could say we're asking that, right? A lot of people are asking that, in fact. And if someone was to bring up that statistic, what could you say about anything? Oh, there's so many practices. Well, that kept us from making money to put into these places. You guys have $1.2 trillion every year to spend. So someone can spend that on you and be like, so I get there were practices in the past, but clearly you had $1.2 trillion as a community, and you guys didn't know how to spend that bread. So maybe you guys shouldn't actually have that much money because clearly you don't know what to do with it. Someone could say that, right? It sounds like some shit. Of course
If
you ain't
you
gonna
were,
hear that shit. Of
yeah,
course you're
no,
not gonna
if
want to
you were
hear it.
an outsider, you just gotta carefully word it for me, because
But
I'm being honest. I would be mad
But I
from the
don't believe
outsider.
you when you say that. Even I brought up Terry Crews, we were talking about. I don't believe that coming out of his mouth that y'all be okay with it. I
I
don't.
wouldn't.
I said I knew what Terry Crews was
But
trying to do.
one,
It made no sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. I understand your point to it, but you said my points made sense to you, correct?
No, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, I feel like the way the community attacked him for that quote, right? Which to me was not the worst thing anybody could have said.
no.
But the way they attacked him, you would have thought he said some shit that was 10 times worse. If he comes out and says some shit like that, once again, nobody wants to hear it. But there's a lot of truth to that statement, right? No matter how hard you go for it, if you agree with it just a little bit, there's truth to it. $1.2 trillion is a lot of money, which means, and that's a lot of people that spent that bread. And if you're gonna tell me all them people were people that didn't have it, or people they were struggling and living check to check, like you're gonna tell me every single one of them dollars came from people like that? No. So
I would agree. I mean, I don't know how you
I
say
mean,
you could believe what you want if I would agree or not, but I feel
no,
like
no,
I
no.
gave an honest answer with saying I would be mad at first, but I would hear them out eventually. But it's like you got to say it in a way that's not condescending, one, because you're an outsider, and two, you got to come with the facts that we just gave right here in this conversation. If this same conversation happened with an outsider, I would have been mad at first, but I would have heard them out, and then we would have came to a
So
like, yeah.
they can't bring in
also,
their own research if it's obvious.
No, I mean, if you come with
also,
facts, I can't argue a fact, but you still got to word it carefully. To me, for me, if you're talking to me, that's how I feel.
That worded
also,
carefully is very subjective.
That's true. We
also,
would never know until the conversation happens.
also, I feel like
I'm sorry, I was giving Sarah her time to talk because we be talking a long time.
that's fine. That's fine.
That was shade.
I just feel
We do.
like I feel that when it comes to the Terry Crews quote that you put into your comment and the 1.2 trillion, people who think like that oftentimes they may not even do it
Think like what?
intentionally, but they negate
Think
history.
like what?
That what you said, like, oh, well, you guys spent 1.2 trillion dollars, so how come you can't da 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 put that money into this, allocate that money this way, that way, whatever the case may be. I feel like that's very, word of the day, detrimental, because
Oh wow.
because people who make those type of comments, whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally, negate history,
Not
negate what
necessarily.
happened, what happened over a course of time for us to get to where we're at. You feel me? Like,
You ever spent $100, Will?
hold on,
You ever
hold
spent
on.
$100
Yes,
in a
I have
day?
spent a
In a
hundred
day?
dollars in a day.
Why didn't you put that in your savings
Or
account?
I already had the hundred
Why
dollars in my
didn't you put it
savings
in your
account.
savings account?
I already had a hundred
So
dollars
why
in my
didn't you put
savings
an
account.
extra $100 in your savings account, Will?
Another 100 won't hurt
Why
you.
didn't you put an extra $100 in your savings account that day instead of spending it
Because I
when
spent it. I
on
spent it
what
instead.
food that got shipped down the toilet?
Probably.
We all have an issue.
But even in that, because I'm not negating. I'm not saying that the the self the problems that we have with ourselves, like that we don't need to fix it, or that like because we need to fix it. And I'm not saying that um this coming from somebody inside the community or outside the community is invalid. I'm saying that people who would make those statements that you made, the 1.2 trillion, or the Terry Crews comment on Twitter, intentionally or unintentionally, these people are negating history
Not
and
true.
how events cause a people to get to the point where they're at right now in the present moment.
Not true.
Yes, it does.
Not true.
Because if you sit back, if you write 1.2 trillion on a piece of paper and a person says, "Oh, well, why do you have problems, black people? You spent 1.2 trillion dollars, so it must be your fault." Negate history.
Not true.
Negate how we got
in that
how we
way,
come to this point.
in that way, someone, of course, there are white people that and other people alike that say that and say it in that way that try to negate the history. There are other people that say that because they acknowledge the history that we've been in and are also calling that we don't repeat the same mistakes. Teach your kids about credit. Teach your kids about equity. Teach your
Well, we
kids.
can't because of history.
No, you can. If you understand your history, you know that you can't.
Well, not everyone can.
We can, because you're gonna say and tell me that you have kids, you can't tell them, you can't teach them about real estate and how to own a home and about having and maintaining credit right now.
I never owned a home, so I wouldn't know. I could tell them about credit because I got a credit line.
Okay, so once again, so that right there, let's just go off of that right on itself, and then you saying that y'all really is trying to sit here and tell me that we don't understand and acknowledge history. You understand
we?
Us three.
No. I'm saying you do what you know.
Do we acknowledge history? No. Yes or no?
Yeah, yes. We probably do. Yeah,
so we understand. You, Sarah just admitted she's never owned a home, so she doesn't necessarily know how that would go. No one's probably taught her. So does that mean that we let history repeat itself by not going out on our own and maybe looking into it, so that maybe that one day if we have kids, we can possibly have a roof over their head and tell them how they can get to this too without them having to struggle and do it on their own? So I'm just asking you to answer the question. Is that true?
No, I mean you could read up on it and everything. Obviously, there's resources.
So what I'm saying is, I acknowledge history. I acknowledge what happened. I acknowledge a lot of the shit that went down, especially in real estate, because that was one of the biggest detrimental actions that they could have taken to keep us from. Because the money that you get in the real estate game, buying houses, flipping houses, all that shit is wild. And they locked us out of that for 400 plus years. So I understand that. What I'm saying to you, if someone said in 2020, when we are allowed to buy houses and we are allowed to do certain things, I ask you $100 on a very small scale, because $100 doesn't do shit to 1.2 trillion, right? There's times where we have money, we know we're trying to save for something, we're trying to invest in something, but we don't have the discipline to keep saving. A lot of us have an issue with that. We understand history. You're going to sit here and tell me that because history happened that we're not supposed to teach ourselves, that we're supposed to run with the ignorance of, oh, no one taught me, so how am I supposed to teach my kids?
No, a lot of it is about self-restraint. You're right, but again,
you don't agree with that? You agree that we're ignorant?
No.
Because of history?
I'm not saying that. I'm agreeing with you. That's why I said no. I'm not sitting here saying that.
So then how could that be the only take you get from that 1.2 trillion? Once again, I'm asking you to hear the statement and think about the statement and perceive it in a way where it comes from a place that you're not feeling emotional. Your favorite quote from that one of those podcasts, ain't no emotion in business. Last time I checked, $1.2 trillion was money. That's bread that's used in business.
It's a hell of a lot of money.
That's a hell of a lot of money. And I think a lot of that $1.2 trillion was spent based off of what people wanted for luxury and entertainment purposes. And not enough was spent in the business aspect or saving or whatever, spend money to make money. Not a lot of it was spent. I don't think enough of it was spent that way. So what I'm saying to you is, yes, I get what you're saying. Hearing it will be a different type of energy. But if you sat there and thought about that shit, it's not wrong.
It's not.
So once again, you cannot hide behind the ignorance because someone said something you ain't like. once you're gonna make someone feel, you're gonna get mad and attack somebody or come off defensive for someone because they're not in the community, but they said a fact. A fact that it's not like they. I said that to bring up an example that in the least derogatory way, where once again you interpreted it one way, and I interpret it in many ways. It can be, yes, of course, there's people that are going to use that as an attack. People use anything as an attack, but you can also use that same thing as a building block. $1.2 trillion a year. We need to start doing better. Someone says so. So you exactly. So there's too many interpretations for you to have that one take. Or you would get mad at somebody for saying that.
I don't have one take. I don't have just one take.
You're trying to defend your whole shit. Like,
who are you talking to? Are you talking to Will?
Will, you can't say that. That's negating history.
No, I'm saying people.
There are those people that
I'm saying people who openly say those statements, whether they be black or white or whatever the case may be. They are, whether it's intentional,
once again,
unintentional, conscious or subconsciously. I'm just saying it. It is what it is, though.
So you don't believe that you can use that?
So because all right. So if you want to take it to like, oh, like we could be teaching our kids about credit. To be teaching our kids about credit means that we've had to have experience in utilizing credit.
You don't have a credit?
You could break it down. No, I don't currently. No, you could break it down even more to say that we need to teach our kids when throughout history, and this is why I say this is kind of negating history. Throughout history, the black families have been broken down. So how can you say, oh, we could be teaching our kids about credit, about how to utilize credit, how to become financially How can we do that when all of these things throughout our history that got us to this point has not given us the time or the resources?
Well, you have
throughout history, but there are resources right now that you can
exactly. I'm not negating that.
Exactly. Please, you're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself.
I'm not. Because the statement itself, it doesn't matter who it comes from. It's like saying, "Oh wow, pull your boots up from your bootstrap."
No,
I don't think so.
No, it's not. And I like how all of a sudden you not rocking with that. Oh, it's power. All of a sudden.
No, I'm not. I understand that it's power, but I also understand
only if it comes out of your mouth.
I also understand the pandering of the whole situation. I also understand the micromanagement. Also, I used to stay. Of course.
We have the resources.
Of course, and that goes without saying. But I'm also not going to say that. Oh, it's so easy to do.
No one said that.
Yeah, we have resources, but if you look, we have resources, right? But you can, and this is a famous quote. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force that horse to drink.
Exactly.
So, and even further, you can't put like calculus in front of a person who has never studied calculus and expect them to answer the problem correctly.
So it seems like, Will, you're saying that people do what they know, and if they don't have credit, then, like I just said, basically,
it's
right?
But it to broaden it on a more general level and more so at the points that he made. This is why I made the points that I made, is the fact that those thoughts, even if it's not intentional, even if it's not intentional, is negating history to a degree. Even if you go back in that statement and then you start unraveling it, the initial statement was like, oh wow, you should just ... That's the sentiment behind it. Yes. You guys should just ... because you spent 1.2 trillion, so it shouldn't be a problem for you.
The statement was, if you are spending $1.2 trillion, and I'm paraphrasing, if you're spending $1.2 trillion and you're the number one consumers in this world, maybe you should spend it in places that could help you economically in your community by buying black, for example, or by not feeding into capitalism as much as we do by trying to invest in things in real estate or whatever the case may be. Just redistribute your wealth in ways that can put you in socio-economic power, put your community. That's what I'm
pretty much.
assuming Brandon was saying.
Yeah, that is pretty much what I'm saying, and I gotta ask Will, because you're not seeming to understand a very important factor when you keep saying that is like negating history. Because last time I checked, there's a big thing, a big factor in the human language, in every language, if whether you speak it, whether you speak Spanish or English, whatever you speak, Chinese, or any type of Asian language, any Spanish language, whatever the case may be, tone is a big factor in all of them. Tone. If I
It's
walk
never
by
what you
you,
say, it's always how you say it.
it's exactly, it's how you say it. If Of course, if a white person comes off condescending and says that shit, you're gonna be tight. If someone else has it as a way, like, hey, like, we spending this much bread, we gotta, you can't get mad at that. It's a fact, right? And
Right.
especially if it's coming from your own community, you can't get mad at that. If someone outside the community that thinks they're doing good, and it's like, you guys are, and maybe they don't understand, of course, you can possibly let them know about historic events that kept us from up until now having what we probably should have already. At the same time, you can't get mad at them for stating a clear fact. You keep talking about not having certain resources and everything. I get that, but we do have resources to make change. You acknowledge history by saying things like that. You see that, you acknowledge history. If we have the means of 1.2 trillion spending dollars a year, if we have the means, that means that there is potential for change if we use that power correctly. That means that you acknowledge that there's potential for change, because 1.2 trillion dollars, it ain't no, that's a lot of fucking money. It's
It
a
means
lot of
the
money.
power is there for us.
The
It's
power and
just
the
I
how,
was never
resources.
negating that.
huh?
I was never negating that.
No, but you keep
Yeah.
saying that acknowledging that is like saying, is like discrediting the shit that black people went through in history. And no, it's not. It depends on who's saying it and how you're saying it. That's all I'm saying to you. That's not the case. When you saying that, that's like you want to keep hiding and going back to this, claiming like people do all the time. Everything's going good and shit goes bad. All of a sudden, oh, it's because I'm black, and oh, it's because we going through all this shit. I'm in this situation because I'm black. Like, no, like, a lot of times we can take history and learn from it. We can take history and change it. We can go back, and everything, it does not fall back on the fact that we are black or that history. Some things fall back because we made a stupid decision, we made a poor decision, and that's what we have to understand. Yes, we can play a factor in a lot of the things that happen in our lives. As individuals, we all know of situations that we spent money in the wrong place. We gambled, made a business decision, and did this instead of that, and maybe regretted it after the fact. But you got that money back, so it ain't really affect you. But we all know of situations that we do that maybe I should have did that different. We can, maybe it don't help the whole community, but if we all thought like that and maybe tried to better ourselves financially, then guess where our people would be as a whole. We don't all think like that. We don't all think like, hey, let me invest in myself. Let me put this to the side. Let me work towards this. Maybe I can get this and that, and then maybe my kids would be set and I could teach them and have something left for them. But we don't think like that. A lot of us are so stuck on history, 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 history. Okay, well, life moves forward. You lose your legs, guess what happens? You may not be able to run, but the world is running still, right? So now you got to find a way to keep up. So, like, the world don't stop because now you disabled. The world don't stop because you lost somebody. The world don't stop. Like, we going. We got to figure out. And if you keep going back to, oh, this, yes, we understand that, and we are affected by it. But how are we going to find a way to move forward instead of looking for somebody to help us out?
Any closing statements, Will? Because I'm pretty sure that was Brandon's.
That was mine. I don't got nothing else.
Um, I I understand and I agree. Um, but I also can understand that it putting it so plainly or putting it so simply is it is
It's
it has
frustrating.
it's very frustrating and it can be very insulting whether it comes from somebody from our community or not
I
That's
agree.
because
just me. That's
because
truth hurts.
because regardless if it's the truth or not because if you go to any other group of people, the reason why they are in the positions that they are, the reason why they have the things that they have is because they they are the circumstances that got them where they are were not as perpetual, continuous, devious, deep rooted as our problems and our issues. And I'm not leaning for at no point in time. I'm not leaning on our woes, our troubles of our past. But
saying that,
and getting to that place, because even our own people
can't say that.
Even our own people don't even understand.
You can't discredit somebody else's issues because
You can't interrupt his closing statement.
I'm not. But I'm just saying.
I'm not
discredited somebody else, like a whole different group of people's problems.
I'm
saying they're not as big as ours.
I'm not. But in the grand scheme of things, our issues have been same issues too. Like a little more lasting, have a little more lasting effect. It's still continuous, still going on. So you even if it's history or if it's present, I just think that putting it so simply and plainly, and I'm not even negating the fact or not negating the history or not, like putting it so plainly and so simply, even if you're trying to advance, like I can't just be like, yeah, like, well, I have to understand where we've come from to understand where we're going, right? Just saying. Like, so I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that I disagree, because I agree. But there is something to be said for people, black or white, putting those type of statements plainly, simply, and being like, we already know history. We already know da. So we should move forward. Why are we not moving forward?
Once again, that's not what I said, so I gotta interrupt.
No. I'm not saying that's what you said exactly.
You're using the words that came out of my mouth and making it seem like that's what I was saying. So that's not what I was saying. But go ahead. You're doing exactly what you don't like when media does to us. Like, that's what you're doing when you do that. But I never said that. But you use my words to make me. That's what you said.
But because I also said that I agree with you.
I understand,
but there is something to say. There is something to say for the sentiment behind those statements that were posed in this discussion.
Okay.
That regardless of if you feel like, oh, we know the history, so why can't we move on? Yo, bro. There are so many things that encompass what the history is, how it affects, what it does, how it can predict the future. There's so much that is encompassed in time frames and timelines and events. So even if we're at a place where, yo, we need to really empower ourselves as a people. We really need to turn the ship around. And which we do, and I agree with. But at the same token, I'm not gonna sit back and be like, oh, if somebody comes along and says, yo, bro, you guys spend $1.2 trillion. Like, don't you feel like you could use some of that money or some of that power and allocate it to different things? Of course, in my logical sensible mind, I'm gonna be like, of course we can. But what has history shown us? What has history proven? Because I'm not gonna say that it's all been bad. Like, we have for all the negative, there is positive. There is some positive. Like, I'm not gonna say it and say like, oh, it's all been negative. Like, check the history, bro. But again, check the history, bro. Like, you have to, or you should.
Okay, so I think that putting it so plain and simply like that is frustrating, like you said, Will, which is why I initially said I would be mad at first if an outsider came and said that to me. But if he came with the facts, you can't really dispute it. And like Brandon said, it obviously depends on a person's tone if they're being condescending or not, which is why honestly I would initially be mad at whoever would say that, because most of the time it is condescending. But you can't fight those arguments, you can't fight those numbers. And it's hard to to have self-restraint when it comes to capitalism, because we live in a capitalist country and we want what everybody else has. That's everybody. If black people did that, we would be the first demographic to stray away from America's idea of capitalism, because America's idea of capitalism does not want black people to thrive. We'd be the first ones to be like, well, that's not for us, so we're going to do our own thing right over here by ourselves. And who knows, it probably will get messed up. History's shown it's gotten messed up with Rosewood and Seneca Village and all that stuff. And people always plot on the downfall of minorities. So I get it. I also understand the fact that in terms of like rappers and black people who make it, you want to splurge when you grew up with nothing. I get that too. I can't like dispute that fact. If you grew up with not having something, you're obviously, and you got money and you worked hard and you feel like you want to buy 15 billion cars, I get why you would feel like that. I think it's foolish, but I understand why someone would feel like that. So it's kind of it's just all about self-restraint, how you want to spend your money. Put your money where your mouth is. If you feel like Black Lives Matter, then act like it and start investing in Black businesses and communities. That's how I feel. I also feel like I don't ever want to hear Terry Crews's name for at least a year, because I'm over his whole last name right now. How y'all feeling, Brandon? You shedding a thug tear over there?
No, I'm not shedding no type of tears, honestly.
All right. How you feel, bro?
Once again, like I said, that last statement on Terry Crews, I don't know what he said, every tweet he said. I do know he's come to the community as a man, and as a Black man at that, openly admitting all of his, flaws, how he treated his family, how he was viewed by his family, the things he was growing up to believe, all that shit, how he, and how he was able to grow as a man and change. And he talked about that situation with him being groped up, and how he handled that, and how he viewed himself, and how he feels like, Black people aren't allowed to react, because, we react and we in jail or under it, or anybody else in a situation, they would have fought back and it would have been justified, right? So he does things like that, and we don't talk about it enough. When people a lot of people be for the community. We don't talk about it enough. Cancel culture is crazy. Like, all right, he disagrees. We don't agree with this statement, so now let's cancel him. The situation with the money, I put that simply as a way for you to understand. No one is saying to discredit the history. It's simple because I put it simply because it is simple. Because we are able to change as people, we are. But you know why we won't be able to? It's too easy to divide us. All of us aren't in on this Black Lives Matter movement. All of us aren't in on the things we're supposed to be doing. Blackout Tuesdays, Juneteenth. Don't spend money this day. Don't spend any money that day. Like we're not with it. Though, as people, we aren't. There's too many of us saying we don't give a fuck about a lot of the things that should be going on. That's why it won't happen. I'm saying, what if someone said blame the Black community? How would you react? And because you can blame us, because a lot of us don't fucking care. We talk about it because we don't want to be attacked by the group, but a lot of us don't give a shit. We want to go on with our lives. We don't want to deal with all this drama. A lot of us feel that way. You'd be surprised at how many people do. They don't care. They don't participate, especially the older people. They don't care. They don't. They say it. I'm like, y'all doing your thing. I'm too old to be out there. Like they don't really, they rely on, they just living their lives. A lot of young people, they care, and too many of us are like on TikTok and Twitter when shit's going down to try to make it seem like, oh, we doing our part and we not doing nothing, right? That's what I feel. We can blame the Black community, right? It's that simple. We can lift ourselves up. We can. It's that simple. And no one's discrediting. No one's discrediting our history. What I am discrediting is the fact that we think we're doing everything in our power to change that, and we not. Let's not act like we are, because we're not. That's what I'm saying. We can all act like we are, but yes, we can be blamed. We do play a part, and we need to do better. It is that simple. That's how I feel.
Yeah, well,
um, uh, very powerful words. I agree. Um, History is important. Um, Even with the whole Blackout Tuesday and Terry Crews situation being Black Matters is it's a very complex. I would say it's a very complex nature of just being black and brown in this country, because even if it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But uh, essentially, um, especially for generations to come up under us, I feel like history is important. But I also feel like you shouldn't dwell on a history. You shouldn't lean on a history. You shouldn't use it as a crutch, especially if you're trying to rise yourself, you know, rise out of your current state, or things that are still lingering from the past. Um, I also feel like Brandon said, hey, yeah, we have the means to do it. I've stated that in previous podcasts. We have the means to do it. A lot of people, like you said to your point, a lot of people don't care. A lot of our people don't care. Um, but for um, the ones who do, it's important to understand our history and um, move forward in the continuous fight to uplift and getting out of these bondages one by one. Uh, Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's not it's not easy. It's not simple. It's not a simple task, but it's doable. We can do it. So I feel.
yep. That was our episode. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do what you gotta do. Appreciate y'all, and we will catch you next time.